and Company.
I'm going to be keeping you company for the next few hours.
You are not going to believe the company.
This company.
You're going to bankrupt your mama's company.
At least I have the radio to keep me company. On 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
So for just the 11th time in the history of college basketball, a university from the state of Indiana will play for the biggest prize, the College Basketball National Championship, which will take place tonight in the desert, the Valley of the Sun. And it is only fitting in the Valley of the Sun that a school that produced the first guy to walk on the moon would come together on a day when the sun and the moon come together, which is why we're at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. How are you? My name is Jake Query, Jimmy Cook here as well, and it is officially Eclipse Monday, if you will, right, Jimmy? I mean, it's pretty crazy out here at IMS.
This is insanity. This feels like maybe not as intense, Jake, but in terms of just traffic velocity, as crazy of vibes as you're going to get on carb day or just trying to get around the speedway during race weekend. IMS, I don't think did, but I severely underestimated the amount of bodies that were going to be here today. This place is, you know, the speedway itself, and we are just inside, right next to the Pagoda. We are in Pagoda Plaza, just to the side of it, as a matter of fact. If you're going to be on your way out here, a couple of things, house cleaning items to let people know. Number one, Gate 2 is open at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway for all of the events going on. NASA, notably Angela Buckman, is doing some things for Purdue University, which is a partner with this event today. Ryan Sims, who is an appropriations liaison for NASA and a pride of Whiteland High School, has already come by to deliver us some NASA patches and a couple of Star Wars-looking things that Jimmy got super excited about. And there's a lot going on, but if you're coming out here and there are things leading up to the era of total darkness, the eclipse totality, just after the 3 o'clock hour, there are several things to keep you busy here at IMS. If you are coming out, Gate 2, which is the main entrance to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the one that you would typically take if you're going to the museum. Gate 2 is open, but that traffic is very backed up. I would actually suggest if you come from the west and park over near one of the neighborhoods and then walk into Gate 9, which is on the northwest side, so basically 30th and Georgetown area. That would be my advice, would be to park as close as you can legally outside of the venue and then use that entrance in order to come in. But right now we got Tony Kanaan is here, the Indianapolis 500 champion. He is posing for pictures with his kids with large robots walking around, so a lot going on. But Jimmy, let's get to the meat of the matter, and that is a great Final Four weekend so far for Purdue. Gene Keady going to join us coming up in the 2 o'clock hour today. But I think this comes down, quite frankly, to this, and that is that Zach Edey was too much for North Carolina State. There's no doubt about it. It overcame some areas where there might have been some deficiency in their guard play, but Edey's talent, Edey's size, and Edey's dominance was too much for North Carolina State. Going to be a different challenge for them tonight. Yeah, I mean, they're going to go up against more comparable pieces all across the board. You have a number of NBA prospects on this UConn roster. You have high-level guards. You have high up-tempo offense. You have one of the most efficient offensive and defensive programs in the country. There's a reason that they have been the dominant force in the sport for the last 2 years. That's not the same thing in Purdue. Purdue has high level well. The area that intrigues me the most, though, outside of player matchups, Jake, the formula to beat Purdue, which there's not really one, right? But when you have a team that's only lost 4 games, you got to try to find out, okay, where's maybe a weakness? Where do they have nights where they struggle? The turnovers were there for NC State. They were there to be had. Purdue turned the basketball over 16 times in the win against the Wolfpack, but they were stellar from beyond the arc. They go 40% from three-point range. That offsets a lot of the turnovers, the miscues. They were great defensively, and they also forced some turnovers, 11 of them on the Wolfpack as well. But if that's a repeat performance, and I don't think it will be. I think Braden Smith had an off night. I think there were a lot of struggles from beyond the arc. But that's the second game in a row where there's been some struggles, even though from a percentage standpoint as a team, Purdue shot very well. They have to take care of the basketball in a more effective manner like they've done in their 34 victories this season. Because if they don't do that tonight against UConn,
this is going to be another double-digit win in a path to just a little mini dynastic run that we've seen from the Huskies over the last 24 months.
Purdue, of course, is one of 4 schools to play in a national championship game from the state of Indiana. There have been 11 total, as I mentioned. Indiana has done so 6 times. You have 2 for Butler. You have now 2 for Purdue and 1 for Indiana State. That 4, in terms of the number of schools, is second only to the state of California in terms of schools to play for a national championship. But it's going to be exciting. It's going to be very fun to watch. And game tips late. It reminds me of when we talked to Derek Wittenberg in North Carolina State. You know, that game. I hope kids are able to stay up late tonight, right? I hope that people are going to allow their kids to stay up. I get it. I mean, there's a lot going on.
I think you're just
of course,
hoping.
we don't know if the world's even going to be here, right?
Right. With past totality, who knows if we're going to be able to walk out of here at 3:06. All jokes aside, there is a level, I think, and I don't know the full calendar of the state, Jake, but I know there are spring breaks coming to an end, so maybe you can coax your mom or dad into saying, hey, it's the last night of spring break, maybe we stay up for the national title game, have a little fun with it. But yeah, it's the 9:20 late tip. The only justification I have for it this year is that the game's out west. Like, at least it makes sense for the players to have it towards a more normal tip time instead of like a 3 o'clock tip local time for them. If this game was being played in Georgia and it was Purdue and UConn, I'd be very upset if we were doing this at 9:20 when it's 2 East Coast schools in an East Coast city, or at least Eastern time zone city. The rest of California and everybody else be damned. Be selfish at that point.
How was your weekend?
It was great. Got an opportunity to watch both games. Caught the Pacers last night we talked about it. All these Pacers games from last week onward are basically mini playoff games. They need to treat it the same way they did the in-season tournament. And while it got a little dicey late, and that's a credit to Eric Spoelstra and the Miami Heat and where they've been this year and where he's been in general as a coach, they're able to get opportunities thanks to some incredible three-point shooting from Tyler Hero last night to nearly steal one for the Pacers. But they close it out. They survive in advance, if you will. And that atmosphere, Jake, I know we were both there yesterday. The building itself, it didn't feel the way at the start, but by the time we got to crunch time, that felt like a teaser for what Gainbridge is going to be like come playoffs.
Yeah, I thought last night or yesterday after against Miami was really good. I mean, there were several things. Number one, it was good to see, the Pacers take control of that game, but what was worrisome to me a little bit, Spoelstra, is going to make adjustments. And the Heat did exactly that. But once Miami made set adjustments, I thought the Pacers were able to come back and kind of answer the bell, if you will. And I thought they were going to foul. I mean, not to get too into the weeds on moments that happened late in the game, that for those that may not have seen it, but I thought they would foul late in the contest, and they did not. But then obviously they did once it was a three-point game, they fouled. Yeah. Hero hit the first, and then he, goes for the miss, and of course you get the lane violation and game and problem solved. But
by the way, I know it's too late in the process. It's not going to happen now. Malik Monk's going to win it, but I don't know if there's a more valuable sixth man in the sport right now than TJ McConnell. Like, just it's now on a consecutive enough basis, and I know we've kind of been saying that for weeks. He's been one of yours, mine, and Eddie's favorite player on the court, but the way he's able to just effortlessly lead that second unit, get 14, 16. Last night he has 22 to have team-high honors with Miles Turner. He's not even in consideration. Like, you look anywhere across the NBA right now, he is not in those future odds for sixth man of the year. He's nowhere to be found. And I know you can make an argument in any market for a player off the bench that's a high-level contributor, but not look at what McConnell means to this team, what he's done, to the point that it's no longer a feel-good story like, oh, yeah, they really like TJ McConnell coming off the bench. Everybody can embrace them because they see a guy that, maybe isn't as doesn't look as aesthetically NBA high-level athlete, but he works hard and he's able to lead a unit as a reliable guard. I feel like TJ McConnell deserves more recognition nationally, even though he and the Pacers probably don't care about that. I think a lot of fans do, Jake, what he's able to do to keep things stabilized, and not only that, expand leads when that second unit's out there. We've seen that time and time again down the stretch this month.
Yeah, I think The real thing for Indiana now, Jimmy, let's be real. The real challenge for the Pacers is maintaining this. So they went over Miami. They put themselves in really good position in terms of their playoff slot.
Got the tiebreaker now.
But the real challenge is holding serve and winning now the games down the stretch, 3 of them left that they're supposed to win. And that's been their bugaboo, right?
Yeah.
Showing up for a game against Miami has not been the challenge for them. The thing that's been the challenge has been playing against Atlanta, playing against Toronto, and being there when you need to be. That's the thing that is the biggest challenge for them.
We're at a point in the season, though, where it's no longer a Tuesday night in February where you can accept that, right? Like, you're not accepting losses, but you can be like, okay, they weren't up for that game. They had a slow start. They played down to their competition. Any of those cliches that you want to throw. We're not at that point anymore in the year. We're in April with 3 games to play, and I get it. It's very hard to keep the same level of energy that you did against Miami when you still have, as you mentioned, Toronto and Atlanta on the schedule. But you have to, I don't know if it's mental trickery or what you have to do as a player, but you have to convince yourself, because it is the reality of the situation, Jake. It's not necessarily win or go home, but it's win or make your life way more difficult than it should be. The Pacers are in full control of that 6th spot. As long as they win, it's theirs. They should handle Toronto on the road. They should be able to take care of holding serve against Atlanta to end the season a week from yesterday, this coming Sunday afternoon at 1. The question mark game will be, where are they at? What's at stake for Cleveland from a seeding perspective? What's at stake for everybody else on Friday when they go on the road against the Cavs?
Where did you watch the Purdue game?
Friend's house. Over at a friend's house on Saturday for an hour. Shout out to Kyle Burke as well. Connor, 4 of us, we got together and we watched a little bit of the Final Four doubleheader. How about you? Where were you at?
I watched the game at Brothers. We went initially to Bulldog. It was packed. So then I went to Brothers and a couple sitting next to us that went to Purdue and enjoyed the game, and then went back and kind of chilled out after that. You kind of knew the Connecticut game. Like Alabama, that's the thing about Connecticut. Each time that Alabama would make a run to get it close, then boom, it was they would pull away, and Alabama just could not get it within range. The other big story in college basketball today, not necessarily of local note, but it is worth bringing up. And I want to explain what I was talking about with Indiana, because I think people misunderstood what I was saying. And that is that John Calipari, you knew that, like, the thing at Kentucky was obviously kind of coming to a head. With them losing to Oakland, I think Kentucky fans had kind of gotten worn out with Calipari. Worn out's probably the wrong word. They were getting restless. And when you lose the fan base, you lose a lot, right? And so the Kentucky fan base was ready to move on from Calipari. I think Calipari knew it. The buyout was huge. And they got saved. I mean, Kentucky literally just got saved by Arkansas. And the fact that Arkansas goes out and says, you know what, John Calipari's our guy. And, Jimmy, they didn't waste time. So what happened was SMU loses their coach, right?
Correct.
So when SMU loses their coach, who do they hire?
Hire Andy Enfield out of USC.
So USC loses their coach. And who do they hire? Eric Musselman from Arkansas.
Yeah, from Arkansas, correct, yes. Yep. Bus headed to
so
USC.
Arkansas loses their coach. Who do they hire?
Coach Cal. Hire John Calipari.
This is what's frustrating to me. And people can say all they want, but this is what's frustrating to me. Indiana is supposedly a top-line job. Indiana is supposedly like this big-time program. And I'm not saying it's not. Brian Wilkes here, by the way. We going to be good, Brian? Where's the sun going to be at 3:07? Where exactly is it going to be? How high? What angle? Am I blocked by the pagoda? We got to move, he said. Yeah, I was going to say. They got a big tent over us, and we're in an area in between 2 buildings. That's good for a good eclipse. Sunscreen, Brian Wilkes says.
Put on sunscreen in Indianapolis.
But anyway, Jimmy, when they had a coaching opening, they didn't mess around, right?
Sure.
When they had a coaching opening, they didn't mess around. They went out and said, this is the guy we want, we're going to get him. Arkansas wanted John Calipari, so they went to their boosters. They said, how much money can you get? And I'm not saying Indiana would want to spend that much, but they didn't diddle-dally around. They didn't go through a committee and come up when Kentucky now, watch. Kentucky's not going to sit here and go through like 9 names. I guarantee it. Kentucky is either 0-1, probably 8-0, maybe daily. They're going to go to their checkbook, the what you want, and we're good to go. And that's what's frustrating to me about Indiana. Minnesota was a hire that at the time everybody was like, that seemed like people come. But the rest of them, it was like Indiana had to form a committee, and Indiana had to do this, and Indiana had to do that. I mean, you know, it just – this is the way it should be done. If you are a big dog and you're a big player, you got to act like it. And you got to be aggressive. And you got to show your actions need to signify that you are a program with the power that you claim to have, period, right?
Yeah, I mean, and look, it's a weird time for IU basketball. Either we're going to get an opportunity to see that in a year or so if things go south with Mike Woodson, or that's a conversation that nobody hopes to have because he's able to turn things around and rewrite the ship after a disappointing 2023-24 campaign.
Did I hear that correct?
That's what I heard.
Okay, so we will take a break. Motor Speedway on it's a Purdue Monday, truth be told, because you have the national championship game tonight. Eclipse taking place today. Representation out here along with astronauts at IMS, and we will be carrying you through until totality. The total darkness will hand it over to John during that period, and we'll have fun with it. You're listening to 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
Did you know that April is Foot Health Awareness Month? Hi, this is Phoebe, and at the Good Feet store, we think every month you should be aware of your foot health. Your feet support everything you do. Why wouldn't you want to properly support your feet in return? Foot health starts with having great support in your shoes, and with a selection of over 300 different styles and sizes of arch supports, we can help you get back to wearing your nice dress shoes, stylish flats, or even sandals in comfort. Listen to Ava's real Good Feet story.
I love shoes. You find them in the store, you know, they like call you, but they hurt. The best ones hurt the worst. And you're walking around going, I don't want anyone to know that I'm not happy. Stuck in the arch supports, and I felt so much better. I'd say Good Feet help with all of my great shoes. They turned out to be something that actually works for me. My name is Ava, and that's my Good Feet story.
Don't overlook your feet. Make sure they get the care and attention they need so they can keep supporting you. Find the Good Feet store nearest you at goodfeet.com. We look forward to helping you find better foot health.
Hey, it's JMV for the best in realty. Mark Dietel Realty, 317-755-4232. That's markdietel.com. MarkDietel.com today. So Crystal and Franklin was moving to Kentucky and needed to get it done fast. Got with Mark Dietel and the marketing plan and was blown away. In fact, the plan worked. Crystal got full list price with an offer in the first weekend, just like that. Mark and his team got the job done. Mark Dietel, the only real estate expert I trust and recommend with the sale of my home, and Mark Dietel guarantees your home sold at a mutually agreed upon price and deadline, or he will buy it. Pick your move date. There are no long-term contracts, and you can cancel at any time. It's Mark Dietel Realty. 317-755-4232. That's markdietel.com, markdietel.com today.
Attention landowners. Got big plans for your land? Tackle all your spring projects with a powerful John Deere machine. And that was 0% APR for 72 months on select compact tractors, riding lawnmowers, and Gator utility vehicles, plus up to $2,000 off select compact tractors. It's never been easier to get in the seat. Offer available April 1st through 30th. Visit johndeere.com to find your local dealer. For complete finance details, please call toll-free 1-800-226-8903.
The IRS finally caught up with Louie.
I hadn't paid my taxes in 8 years. I owed the IRS a lot of money.
Louie was in deep trouble.
We're going to take your house, put a lien on your bank account, garnish your pay. They don't care. They're going to take your paycheck.
Louis found out about Optima Tax Relief, the leading tax resolution firm. A-plus rated by the Better Business Bureau, they've resolved over $1 billion for their clients.
Optima Tax, they help me. They calm me down. They make me feel comfortable, and I trust them.
Louis has a lot to be thankful for.
I don't owe the IRS anymore, and I'm able to live a comfortable life, a lot better life. It was because of Optima Tax.
For tax help you can trust, call Optima now for a free consultation. Take it from Louis.
If you owe the IRS, don't go it alone. Give Optima Tax a call. They can help you.
Call 800-354-2840.
So, Jimmy, here's my question. At 3 o'clock, are we going to move this tent above us?
I assume you and me are going to be turning into Olympic athletes at 3 o'clock because I'm assuming we're going to have to sprint to the other side of the pagoda to be able to see it, right? Because I would think this tent's not coming down immediately. There will be a teardown process.
They said that we're to stay on for the handoff to John during totality to narrate what's happening.
Oh, okay.
But they've got us, we're right next to the pagoda with a huge tent over us.
That seems counterproductive.
So I think that we move the tent at like 2:55, right?
Yeah, I would agree.
Or simply take the tent down. We are at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
You could play the illusion of radio, Jake. Yeah, it's really dark now, John. It's
That's right.
Nuts.
That's right. Well, if you put the glasses on, it is dark, right? It instantly becomes dark. Indianapolis Motor Speedway is where you will find us. We are just to the in between the Media Center and the Pagoda for the Eclipse. And keep in mind, 49 days until the Indianapolis 500. So we're getting ready to enter a stretch where we will be here aplenty in terms of this venue in Indianapolis. Tonight it is Purdue and Connecticut for the national championship. And Brian Walker, who played, of course, on the Purdue team back in 1980, will join us in just a little bit. Gene Keady going to join us in the 2 o'clock hour as well. I look at this game, by the way, and I would love to hear from Purdue fans today. I want to know where you're watching the game. I want to know. This is like a – and people are going to get tired of hearing it, but it's reality. You have – you know, when it comes to, quite frankly, just things in terms of space, Purdue is the university Armstrong. Also, Purdue graduate. It's the East program there, and Purdue is a huge presence here at the Speedway for this Eclipse. So there's so much going on just with Purdue University in general, but then you throw in the fact that they're playing tonight. It is only fitting. Playing tonight in the Valley of the Sun for a national championship. And Purdue fans have been waiting a long time to be able to push their chest out and say it's our day, but it is their day for certain.
Do you get that same feeling? I know it's not identical, but do you get that same feeling with Purdue fans that you were highlighting about Indiana State fans? Like, I feel like I've seen more Purdue gear around central Indiana which makes sense, right? Anytime you have a team that's in a championship game, you're going to have alumni that come out of the woodwork that don't follow the sports program, but they want to represent and be a part of the – but they don't have that same, like, need to hide in the shadows mind of Indiana State because of the pedigree of the program.
Here's the thing that's interesting to me. We went to Brothers, which is like, I mean, as if I'm not mistaken, by Genesis, it's a Purdue bar, right?
Sure. I believe you're right on that.
And the place was predominantly Purdue fans. And they're playing in the national semifinal. There were 4 girls there from North Carolina State. Nice girls. One of them was from Brownsburg and goes to North Carolina State. So with that, there are 4 girls from NC State there, and the rest of the bar is all Purdue fans. And at one point, Shannon said to me, and she wasn't wrong, but she's like, yeah, like, I thought it would be like more raucous. Like everybody's just kind of the game. There weren't like boiler chants or whatever else. Now, at the very end, you got some of that.
Sure.
But I think to some extent, Jimmy, a large part of that is because you have a lot of people that are just waiting for – they have the anvil hanging over them, and they're waiting for it to drop, right?
Yeah. And I feel like at this point, Purdue fans I've talked to, there is a sense of relief that they finally, to your point, have a Final Four banner to hang. It's going to say at minimum national finalist on it. They put to bed the horror stories of March that have plagued that program for the better part of, I mean, forever, but especially magnified in the better part of the last 5 to 7 years. And now they're in a national final, and I think there is some sense of relief in that. But at the same time, I felt the same way. My dad had Butler season tickets. I rooted for Butler. I'm still a Butler fan to this day. I love Hinkle. I love the program. Yes, I went to Indiana, but Butler's always had a place in my heart because my dad went there. And I remember in both runs, but especially the second time, when they lost to, ironically enough, UConn, and just happened to have their worst shooting performance in school history on the grandest stage possible, that there's a level of and it's just sports society today, Jake. We put so much of an emphasis, especially professionally, on if you can't win the big one, your career didn't matter. Like that's the narrative that's been happening for my entire adult life. If you don't deliver these championship moments, your career didn't matter, and who cares about you? That's not right. I don't think it's historically accurate, but that's just the way society reacts to these things. And I do wonder if there is still a sense, not so much as when's the anvil going to fall on you, but as much of will we be forgotten by history if we don't capitalize, if that's a Purdue fan that's talking and looking at tonight's matchup.
You know, I do think the demons were exercised partly because they got to the championship. Because let's be real, okay? If Purdue is to lose tonight, and I don't know that's going to happen. I think these teams play 20 games. Can that game up 11, maybe 12, and Purdue wins 8 or 9?
Yeah.
But clearly, 2 best teams in college basketball.
Matchup we want.
Right. So if you lose tonight, it's so far less egregious because of the fact that you are losing to not only the best team in college, but one of the best of the last handful of years.
They're talking about them in historic proportions for what they're doing. Yes.
Now, the challenge for Purdue is to be this. The challenge for Purdue can come down to the fact that I think to an extent play, they cancel each other out. Then it comes down to either 2 very critical pieces for Purdue. One is Trey Coffin-Red, the other is Fletcher Lawyer and or Mason Gill position. But if Edey is somewhat neutralized, then what you have is A, offset that by Coffin-Red scoring on the other side when things collapse down to Edey on the blocks. And you get over right? You get points that way. Or B, their mid-range game, mid-range and or outside shots. And that's where Gillis, Lawyer, Smith is obviously goes without saying can't play the way he did the other night. But It's going to come down, quite frankly, Jim, it often does in championship games sometimes. It may well come down to cast on supporting cast.
Correct.
Connecticut is very good.
It is. They have, I'm not saying no one is Donovan Clinton, no one is Zach Edey, but they do have some size off the bench. They're trying to just, if the match goes south, and they can take, okay, this isn't going to work, or is in foul trouble, they have options loose in terms of getting to the foul. That's going to stop Zach Edey. So, from a standpoint for the depth is, Briggs cannot have a game in the national semifinal. You need a better performance across trip. If they're going to, you're hoping, could you hear what the perception is the week playing the football stadium for basketball game? You're hoping that Purdue's flustered after the game, so 15-point win over NC State. You're going to flush that and you're only going to turn the ball over 9 or 10 times tonight, and they're going to try to double to Zach Edey. They're going to get Fletcher Jones or a those types number.
Sorry for the technical difficulties right now with Jake and Jimmy. We're going to do a hard reboot with them on site at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, going to cut to an interview that we did last week with Rick Mount. Here is that conversation.
I will be honest with you, it feels almost unnecessary to have an introduction for our next guest. He is a basketball icon in the state of Indiana, and you will never meet, and I can tell you that as sure as today is Thursday, you will never meet anybody who saw him play that will tell you anything other than Rick Mount is the greatest shooter they have ever seen in the game of basketball. He was, of course, on the 1969 Purdue team that made the Final Four. They got all the way into, in the Final Four, the national championship game before dropping to UCLA. But Rick Mount joins us on the program now. Rick, it is a true pleasure. How are you?
Okay, Jake, how you doing?
You know what? I'm excited for Purdue. I'm excited for their fans and, just this run. Excited to talk to you as well. So let's begin with this. I mean, you are, one of the, if not the all-time great at Purdue, and now you get a chance to see your alma mater in the Final Four. First off, just your reaction about where they are now and your thoughts on the job Matt Painter's done.
Oh, Matt's a great coach, and he's done a great job bringing these guys to where they are right now. And the team is playing well. I think they got their first five. And they got Gillis, and they got Heidi, and they got Coleman at the other three spots. They got 8 guys that can play and get it done. So I think they're going to be okay.
When you look back, Rick, on your time playing for Purdue, and I had read, and I don't know if this is true or not, that you ended up at Purdue, obviously close to home, right there near Lebanon. I thought I read somewhere that maybe Miami was another school where you were thinking about going, but obviously it worked out for you at Purdue. What are your overall memories, I guess, and just your sentiments in general of being a Boilermaker?
Well, it was the fan. I remember Red Mackey. I went in and had a meeting with him on my visit, and he was the athletic director. And he's the one that started all this Purdue Mackey Arena. And it was the offices were there, but it was just a big hole, And so he says, this is my dream, Rick, and we want you to be part of it. And it turned out to be that I was part of it, and we got it going. We had the dedication game with UCLA. And we almost beat them. And there was I always remember this. Bob King was an assistant coach at Purdue, and he was downstairs on the floor. He told me this story, talking with a guy, And the guy says, I don't know if they're going to let you play, Bob, because you probably got 16, 17,000 in there and only held 123. And he says, the fire marshal might shut this game down. He says, bull crap. He's sitting right over there on the front row. So they weren't going to shut the game down. He had front row tickets and the fans. That's where it all started with the fans and crazy and teams hated to come to Purdue to play because of the fans, and they were great.
Rick, what do you remember most about that run by you and the Boilermakers in '69?
Well, see, back then you only played the 32 games instead of 68 now or something like that. And we started out in the Mideast Regional in Wisconsin, and we played Miami, Ohio, and Kentucky played Marquette. And we won, and Marquette beat up on Kentucky pretty good, but that's where it started right there, and I always remember this. You need a little luck once in a while to get that far to the final game. You got to have a little luck too. So we're playing Marquette with Al McGuire, and Al McGuire was a fiery guy. He was really fiery, and he came by George King at the half, and we had him down a little bit. And I'm getting some rosin on my hand, and he turns and gets right in George King's face and says, "Now we're going to kick your ass." and George says, "You couldn't do it in the NBA. You're not going to be able to do it now." So the game was right down to the wire. It's tied up with 25 seconds to go. And Dean Meminger, you heard of that name.
Yep.
And he's got the ball. He's out there, and they're going to hold it for one. They ain't going to give us they're not going to give us a shot at it. They're going to take a shot, and if it goes in, they win, or it goes in overtime. So he shoots one from about 16 feet, comes off the rim, and a big George Faber, the Faber B. Winda, that guy made millions of dollars on that. The guy's starting to put it up with 2 seconds to go, and Faber just grabbed him. This guy's got 2 shots, and I always remember this. And if he makes one of them, we lose and we go home. Right before he got the ball, the referee gave him the ball. I'm in the block-out lane. He turns to me, and he says, "It's over." He's telling me it's over. So I didn't say anything to him because I want him to keep concentrating on what he just said to me, So he puts the first shot up, and it hits the neck of the rim, comes off. Now I'm looking at him. I'm not saying anything to him. He won't look at me now. And the second free throw he put up was an air ball. So the game goes in overtime. And I hit that last second shot in overtime to put us in the Final Four. But, things like that, all you had to do is hit one shot, one free throw, and they beat us. But they didn't.
So, Rick, let me tell you the story George Faber told me years ago.
He lies a lot. Just remember, he lies a lot. Okay?
That's the best part about George Faber, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well,
his windows are a lot more clear and easy to see through than his stories, right? So
yeah.
So Rick, Faber tells me
whatever. So our apologies to Rick Mount for jumping out of that conversation, but we're back at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Here's the thing: my understanding is the sun just creating all kinds of havoc here, right? On connections, right?
You put in solar eclipse and all types of other events, Jake, and it's going to lead to technological problems. It just happens, It's got to roll with it.
So we'll see if we can get a hold of Brian Walker here, who was on the Purdue 1980 National Championship runner-up team, or actually Final Four team. Boilers, of course, in '69, runners-up. And we are at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So to reset, for those of you, and I appreciate those who are patient in terms of our challenges of connectivity, but those things do happen, especially when you have the number of people out here at this event that we have today. We are at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway for the Eclipse, which of course the culmination of that happens just after 3 o'clock, but the Eclipse itself will begin here in about an hour or so. There are tens of thousands of people here at the world's greatest race course, and in 49 days, 48 now, the Indianapolis 500-mile race will be run. But this is a great event because of the fact that it is in combination with the Speedway and then with Purdue University because of their connection to aerospace and NASA, who is also here. Purdue is also the epicenter of the sports world, as we mentioned, because tonight they are vying for their first NCAA championship, at least in the tournament format. And a guy that was on a team that went to their Final Four in 1980, Brian Walker, joins us on the program now. And Brian, listen, I went to Indiana, I graduated from Indiana, and I'm supposed to have an objectivity in this job, but I feel it is only appropriate in welcoming each of our guests onto the show today by simply saying, boiler up. How are you?
Appreciate it. Thank you. Boiler up.
Okay, I want to begin with this. This particular group and this unit, we'll get into the X's and O's and the matchups in a minute, but as a Purdue basketball alum and a guy that played for Purdue and of course was a great player in the state of Indiana, what does all of it just mean to you, I guess, and to the Purdue program to not only see Matt Painter finally break through and get the Boilers to this spot, but to do it in the fashion and the character with which they have?
Well, it's been a long time. I mean, every Purdue fan, has, we've had a lot of bad breaks, bad luck, injuries. Robbie Hummel injury toward the end of the season. Isaac Haas, the hook and hold that broke his elbow during the tournament. Back in the Gene Keady days, we had several one-point losses where we were the higher seed, the better seed, but playing on a lesser seed's home court, if you will, like Memphis State and Memphis and LSU down south on their home court. So we just always seem to have bad breaks and we can't get over the hump, and now we have. And this team had a mission after getting embarrassed the last year. Everybody came back. Of course, it was huge that Zach came back as well, but they all came back with a mission. Their mission was to basically come back, get to the Final Four, and win it all, and kind of repeat history with what Virginia did a few years back after getting embarrassed by a 16-seed victory over them. So they've had that mission, and the players, they all stay together. They've hung together as a team. It's just fun to watch, and Matt and the players have done a great job sticking to their game plan and to what their goals are. It's been awesome.
Brian, does it feel like that from a Purdue fan and from a former player's perspective, does it feel like the demons of this tournament, especially the last 5, 6, 7 years for Matt Painter and this club, does it feel like regardless of the result tonight, that being a national finalist, getting to a Final Four, has exercised those demons to the point that Purdue fans can breathe easy? Obviously, you want to win tonight, and that's the cherry on top, but does it feel like they've already achieved a large part of putting to bed a lot of what the doubters have said about them the last decade?
I would agree 100%. Obviously, winning it and putting a national championship rather than a national runner-up in Mackey Arena would be a lot better. But I believe that the future holds a lot of promise for Purdue basketball. Matt Painter has created a culture that I don't think is in a whole lot of other college schools with the transfer portal the way it is. A lot of players leave. Look at the UConn team. They don't have the Purdue blood in them. We have Lance Jones, who's a big part of this team this year, came in and accepted the culture that the team had, and it's the team first and individualism second, and that's huge in today's world with all the changes with the transfer portal and the NIL money, etc. Lance Jones said, "I want to play for a winning team." Not once in his recruiting did he ever ask, what's my what NIL money will I get if I come to Purdue? And that's the big reason I think why Coach Painter took him. He just wanted to be on a winning team and help contribute. So with that, I think my son couldn't make it to the game out here in Phoenix, and he said, Dad, they're going to be back in the Final Four, in the next 2 to 5 years. I just feel like Purdue's era is getting to start. So I think getting over the hump, the proverbial monkey off our back, I think they've done that, and hopefully they cap it off with a cherry on top tonight.
See, that's my thing, Brian, is this does have a Jay Wright type feel to it. And you tell me if I'm overly optimistic, but I look at it as it's so hard sometimes to get over that hump. But the way this program has run, the way that Matt Painter has found consistency, in particular in the NIL and portal era, and I'm not saying that means that is necessarily how they hold serve, because a million things can happen. But the way that Painter has just developed kind of the brand with Purdue, it feels to me like this could be Jay Wright Villanova-esque. I don't mean multiple titles, but a breakthrough to where the Final Four is now not the hump, and that your son's right, and that this becomes something we do see a couple more times over the next decade. Is that too optimistic?
I don't think so. I mean, these players came back. They wanted to win for Coach Painter. They wanted it that bad. They worked all summer together. That was their goal. That's not an individual goal. That's a team goal. And he recruits the Purdue player, the players that put the team first. And I think with his success and the lack of the success down south, where you went to school recently, I think it's helped him. I think if he wants an Indiana player, he's going to get the Indiana player, and I think that helps to keep the homegrown kids in the state of Indiana, et cetera. So I agree. I think it could very well be the start of a Jay Wright era and a Purdue era with a Matt Painter era where, the Final Four is something we expect and we hope we win the national championship, not something will we get there? Will we get to the Final Four? I agree with you 100%.
How impressed have you been with this young guard core that Purdue has? To your point about them potentially turning a corner and this being a stand of them belonging in the national conversation beyond just these 3 consecutive years, which have been incredibly impressive. When you look at Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer and what Matt Painter's going to be able to build around in the coming seasons, what do you see from these 2 sophomores?
When I first saw Braden Smith play, I saw him do all the little things. You make the pass to your teammate before your teammate realizes he's open. The teammate comes off the back screen. You look at the back screen. You see if there's going to be a switch, if there is or isn't. If your teammate's going to be open, you make a bounce pass, and the teammate's there. And I think in the first week or 2 of practice with Braden Smith, a lot of guys were getting hit in the nose or in the face or in the chest. They weren't aware sometimes that they were open. And I saw that in Braden Smith. He's one of those exceptional players who can see the game evolve, a play or 2 before it actually happens. And from last year to this year, he's even gotten better at that. And he's looked to score a little bit more. Zach Keady made a great comment about him. He said, I wouldn't be the player I am today without Braden Smith giving me the ball at the right place at the right time. Fletcher Lawyer has his ups and downs throughout the season. He's on a streak right now. I hope he continues that streak at least for 1 more game this year. But he's got a lot of confidence. If you're an opposing team, you might say it's cockiness. I like to refer to it as confident in your game and confident what you can do. And if you stick to the game plan, I said a couple weeks ago when Purdue went to Illinois, if we beat Illinois at Illinois with everything on the line and with their big guards, that we struggle with teams with big guards, I said we'll win all of it. We'll win the national championship. So I truly believe that. I think we'll win tonight. I think it'll be a good game. I think the matchup is, from each position. I think they may be a little quicker than us at guard, but I just think it's going to be a wonderful game. I think it'll be a close game, and I think Purdue will ultimately win.
Brian, when you go back and you look at the 1980 Final Four, Market Square Arena, your conference foe Iowa is there with you, and then Louisville and UCLA. It was a different era. You were a year removed from, obviously, the Magic Bird Final Four that kind of really jump-started everything for college basketball in regards to that. But what is your recollection just in terms of the overall pressure, the external factors that went into focusing on the game itself? And I know your team, there was a little bit of, just kind of there were a lot of moving parts to that 1980 Purdue team. But how big was the Final Four in 1980?
Well, let me give a little. The year before, we were tri-champs with Iowa and Michigan State. And we don't get to go to the tournament. There's only 32 teams. So Michigan State goes to the tournament, wins it all with Magic Johnson against Larry Bird in the championship game. But we go to the NIT, which is still 32 teams, which is 64 of the top best teams in the tournament, and we get to the final game. In the Final Four that year is Ohio State, Indiana, and Purdue at the NIT, and we're like, wait a minute. We shouldn't be here. We should be in the other tournament, in the NCAA tournament. But we end up getting beat on the last-second shot by Butch Carter. We have 4 seconds to score. Jerry Seaston misses an open jump shot, and IU wins. And being from Indiana, you know what that's like when all your buddies that come back from college from Indiana, et cetera, and you have to live the whole summer knowing that your season ended getting beat by your rivalry, your in-state rivalry. That was horrible. So the next year, they expand the tournament to 48 teams, and we finish 4th in the Big Ten, and we get to go to the tournament. It's like, wow, this is really great. But depending on what happened the previous year, we didn't think we would get in. We did. We got to the Final Four. For our team, when we were done with practice, we went our own way. It's not like the culture that Matt Painter's developed now. These kids most of them stay across the street from Mackey Arena. They go to the gym at different times of the day and night, work on their games, etc. When we were done with our practice, it wasn't that we didn't like each other. We just were in different dorms, different apartments, etc. I've always said that had Purdue not played in Marcus Square Arena an hour away, our team would have been better off going to the West Coast, where we had to go out there 4 or 5 days ahead of time, where we would have been closer together as a team. I really believe that would have helped some. So playing in Marcus Square Arena, to me, was a detriment to our team, only to the extent that I think we left for practice, the open gym on Friday. We didn't go to a hotel or stay anywhere until Friday night, and the game was on Saturday. So to me, it was just like another game. You had all the hoopla at the 1-hour open gym. That was a lot of fun, etc. But it wasn't the same. I think our team would have been better off if we went away from our hometown. But that's just my opinion.
Well, it's going to be a hometown, essentially, boiler time in the desert, because there are a lot of Purdue fans out in Arizona to watch tonight. Brian will be one of them, and I know a lot of eyes will be on watching Gene Keady going to join us at 2:30, watching Matt Painter's group try to cut down the nets for Purdue. Brian, I appreciate it. Boiler up and enjoy all of it, all right?
All right, thank you much. Have a good day. Boiler up.
Appreciate it. Brian Walker from the 1980 Purdue team. Speaking of Purdue graduates, one of them is here. Angela Buckman will join us in just a moment. But before we do that, here live at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, by the way, I want to talk to you folks about Love Heating and Air. Love-HVAC.com is their website, 317-353-2141. The telephone number. Love Heating and Air. This time of year, this is a perfect time to think about Love Heating and Air, because think about today. You got sun, then all of a sudden it's dark, then back to sun again. That's like the weather in Indiana, especially this time of year. Cool, then it gets warm, then it gets cool again. You just kind of never know. Perfect time to make sure that your air conditioning is ready for the summertime when it gets consistently warm. And that's what Love Heating would love to come out and do. Just simply give a check, make sure that you are up to speed, and then get you ready for the summer. Love Heating and Air has been around for over 100 years, just like this facility where we are, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in central Indiana. And how do you last that long? Well, you last that long with great customer service, great product, knowledge of product, and 24-hour on-call maintenance, and the fact that a family-owned business treats their customers like family. That's everything you get with Love Heating and Air. I've known them my whole life, and I am very, very confident in sending you folks to this great business. 317-353-2141. The telephone number, love-hvac.com. Back at IMS with more on Eclipse, Purdue. Angela Buckman joins us next.
When I release the handle of an axe at Flying Squirrel Axe Throwing, it feels like...
So just as we expected it, it's like Y2K, all hell's broken loose. Like everybody and their brothers at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, nobody really knows like if we're all like going to die at 3:08.
Is that why you had all that toilet paper in your car? That
That's
makes sense
exactly
now.
right.
Now I understand. Okay.
I left water in the bathtub at home. I don't know what's going on. Angela Buckman from WTHR, who is, Angela, go ahead and say it, boiler up, right?
Boiler up. Oh my gosh, I just spent the morning with Purdue scientists, people from NASA. I feel a tad bit smarter. Just a tad bit smarter.
And you stayed at the Holiday Inn Express.
Yeah.
You're good to go, right?
I mean, they are, and everyone is so excited about the game. I mean, we have to obviously make it through, 3:08, 3:09, the total darkness before we get there, but we'll get there.
Let me tell you something. So this is all perfect for Purdue, and let me tell you why before we get to the forecast. Here's why it's perfect, okay? When you think of Purdue University, what do you think of? Neil Armstrong, first guy on the moon, right?
Yes.
So we got the moon part taken care of, right?
Done.
Eclipse, generational eclipse day. Last time totality in Indiana, the year Purdue opens, right?
Okay.
1969, guy walks on the moon, Purdue goes to the Final Four and goes to the championship game. Now, you've got the sun aspect you got to deal with, right? Game taking place Arizona, Valley of the Sun, right?
I see where you're going.
And Purdue, for 44 years, has been waiting to come out of the darkness. And here they are. So it is your day, Angela. Like, as a Purdue fan, it is your time.
It is a big day. It's an exciting day. And I tell you, these scientists are all geeked out about today, but they are also super geeked out about tonight at 9:20.
Okay, what's the weather going to be? Here's the most important part. It's 57 right now?
Yeah.
So what are we looking at here? Pretty much just like this, or is cloud
just
going
like
to move
this.
in?
This is the high cloud deck we had expected. And even talking to the scientists in there that know a whole lot more about up there than I do, high clouds, no problem at all. It would be a low cloud deck that would spoil it for us, or any rain, but this high cloud deck might make it look more interesting.
So here's what's interesting to me about the Speedway. So if you're a meteorologist in Indianapolis, okay, I want you to hang on this, and then on the other side, I want you to answer this, okay?
Okay.
You have a love-hate relationship with this place, and I'll explain why with Angela Buckman, and we will preview the Boilers and Connecticut on the other side here from Indianapolis Motor Speedway on total solar eclipse day. Why is it not a lunar eclipse, Jimmy? The moon's getting screwed in this deal, right? They're just as much a part of it.
And hey, it's sunshine. Sunshine and then not sunshine and then sunshine again.
I guess Connecticut's playing tonight, too, and we keep calling it Purdue games. So anyway, we'll come back to IMS next.
Spring in Indy, and if you hate to paint...
Buckman of WTHR, that's Channel 13 to you and I, has stopped by. She is proudly wearing her Purdue lapel pin.
I know.
Of course, lapel just north of where she went to high school at Hamilton Southeastern, right? You're tying it all together.
I am a proud HSE grad. I'm a proud Purdue grad.
So you are Central Indiana through and through, right?
Yes.
So I know that you know what this place means. It's Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So it's very cool to be out here. It's kind of our civic gathering place. But probably starting about now, and then you get a week reprieve in the first week of June, and then people start asking you again about what's the weather at the Speedway? What's the weather at the Speedway? Now, you can never say it's going to be a rain out, but you love what the track means, but it's got to be a little worried after a while, right?
It is headache inducing, but I will tell you, I have been in the parking lot at Channel 13 and pouring rain, thunder, lightning at 6 a.m. waiting on escorts out here. Made it through a beautiful sunny grace day. There's always open out here, always.
You know what? That's what they probably should have to walk to.
I don't think I worked at the same station.
You know how that goes, right? Okay,
it happens.
Today, so for folks that are listening for the first time, give us kind of a rundown of, what exactly the other time crazy and elementary and then what times and what they do.
Well, I think the most exciting part, obviously, is that almost 4 minutes of totality. So you will, as the Eclipse gets underway, you're going to start to see with safety glasses, obviously glasses that are approved. You will watch the moon become, cast its shadow. And then during totality, it will be dark. It's warm now. We've got sunshine and 70s. It will drop probably by 10 degrees.
Okay, well, and pardon my naivete here, but the moon, the circumference is smaller than the circumference of the sun, right? So
you will see just the outer edge. And I tell you, I was in with those scientists from Purdue and around the country earlier today, and they are so excited about it. They're seeing a few rockets today. Before the Eclipse begins, on their mentality and what is that comes to an end. Just to study the sun. It is super cool.
So this is literally the epicenter right now of, and let me ask a really dumb question. I'm almost embarrassed to ask.
Ask away.
Is there an eclipse of some sort taking place anywhere on Earth?
We're dealing with connection issues again, so let's get back to the conversation that Jake and Jimmy just had with Brian Walker while we work on that in the meantime.
So our apologies to Rick Mount for jumping out of that conversation, but we're back at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Here's the thing. My understanding is the sun just creating all kinds of havoc here, right? On connections, right?
You put in solar eclipse and all types of other events, Jake, and it's going to lead to technological problems. It just happens, It's got to roll with it.
So we'll see if we can get a hold of Brian Walker here, who was on the Purdue 1980 National Championship runner-up team, or actually Final Four team. Boilers, of course, in 69 runners-up. And we are at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So to reset, for those of you, and I appreciate those who are patient in terms of our challenges of connectivity, but those things do happen, especially when you have the number of people out here at this event that we have today. We are at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway for the Eclipse, which, of course, the culmination of that happens just after 3 o'clock, but the Eclipse itself will begin here in about an hour or so. There are tens of thousands of people here at the world's greatest race course, and in 49 days, the Indianapolis 48 now, the Indianapolis 500-mile race will be run. But this is a great event because of the fact that it is in combination with the Speedway and then with Purdue University because of their connection to aerospace and NASA, who is also here. Purdue is also the epicenter of the sports world, as we mentioned, because tonight they are vying for their first NCAA championship, at least in the tournament format. And a guy that was on a team that went to their Final Four in 1980, Brian Walker, joins us on the program now. And Brian, listen, I went to Indiana. I graduated from Indiana, and I'm supposed to have an objectivity in this job, but I feel it is only appropriate in welcoming each of our guests onto the show today by simply saying, boiler up. How are you?
Appreciate it. Thank you. Boiler up.
Okay, I want to begin with this. This particular group and this unit, we'll get into the X's and O's and the matchups in a minute, but as a Purdue basketball alum, and a guy that played for Purdue and of course was a great player in the state of Indiana. What does all of it just mean to you, I guess, and to the Purdue program, to not only see Matt Painter finally break through and get the Boilers to this spot, but to do it in the fashion and the character with which they have?
Well, it's been a long time. I mean, every Purdue fan, has, we've had a lot of bad breaks, bad luck, injuries. Robbie Hummel injury toward the end of the season. Isaac Haas, the hook and hold that broke his elbow during the tournament. Back in the Gene Keady days, we had several one-point losses where we were the higher seed, the better seed, but playing on a lesser seed's home court, if you will, like Memphis State and Memphis and LSU down south on their home court. So we've just always seemed to have bad breaks, and we can't get over the hump. And now we have. And this team had a mission after getting embarrassed the last year. Everybody came back. Of course, it was huge that Zach came back as well. But they all came back with a mission. Their mission was to basically come back, get to the Final Four, and win it all, and kind of repeat history with what Virginia did a few years back after getting embarrassed by a 16-seed victory over them. So they've had that mission the players, they all stay together. They've hung together as a team. It's just fun to watch, and Matt and the players have done a great job sticking to their game plan and to what their goals are. It's been awesome.
So we're back at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Jake Murray along with Jimmy Cook. And
we're back here at IMS with Jake Query. I am Jimmy Cook. Query and Company rolling right along. Still a bit later in the program, we're going to have a conversation with former Boiler great head coach Gene. Is just fit as a whole. Jacob talked about this to open the show. I don't want to go high today. There's as many on here. There would be carb day, but in terms of Pagoda Plaza, you wouldn't know it if you just woke up today, came to IMS, here in a couple of days. But everybody here ready for the total eclipse, as Jake's highlighted a couple times today. NASA is here. A big Purdue presence here, rightfully so. With this being, Jake, basically I don't want to call it a full-scale Purdue holiday, but that's what it feels like when you have a sponsored event like this at IMS, parlayed with a national title for Boilermakers.
No, it's definitely, look, it's right. Speedway going to be selling stuff, and went along, this got bigger. And now, I mean, we were driving here, as I mentioned, if you're still playing on out, I would try to come in off of 30th and Georgetown Gate 9, because Gate 2, which is the main entrance here, was backed up for quite some time, and the line just kept going and going and going. And talking to some of those that are going to be out here and actually driving a race car and running in the Indianapolis 500 that are also, I think, surprised by it. Linus Lundqvist is going to stop by here from Ganassi Racing. And look, you don't get this in Sweden, right? Like back in Sweden, do you eat Swedish fish, by the way? Does anybody ever ask you that?
Swedish fish, yeah. Hunter, the pickled herring.
Those things are great, aren't they?
I love those.
Linus Lundqvist is with us from the NTT IndyCar Series. This is something out here, isn't it?
Tell me about it. I mean, I was shocked, driving into this place. You see folks lining up. We already at like 8 or 9 a.m. So it almost feels like race day.
Now, with that, I think, and look, you don't need to be told this, but for those that, like, if you were telling your friends back home in Stockholm, Sweden, about the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, what it means, how special it was, etc. I mean, this gives you an idea, doesn't it? I mean, the fact that, like, there's nothing racing involved going on, and yet people want to come here just to be at this venue.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely amazing. I think, obviously, as a race fan and as a driver, it's very special to walk in here every single time, but seeing this many people, I heard a number of, like, 50, 60,000 people are going to be here today. And it's special to them as well. So this place definitely has a little bit of a magical touch to it.
Okay, so for you, Linus Lundqvist, here's what I want to know. You are a rookie in the series. You ran some races, obviously, to get up to this point, but full-time now, driving for Chip Ganassi, car number 8, right?
Correct.
And here you are. You have the opportunity. The Indianapolis 500 is before you. The hybrid, so the car is going to change midway through. But How have things gone, and how does a kid from Stockholm, Sweden, end up in the Indianapolis 500?
Yeah, that's a great question. I asked myself that many times. I mean, I started like many kids in go-karts and got introduced to it almost by accident at an amusement park where 5-year-old me just fell in love with go-karts. Had the love and the support of my family to continue racing and work my way through the junior system, and here we are, 20 years later, landing up in a Chip Ganassi racing car to do the Indianapolis 500. It's difficult for me not to smile just saying those words, and it's going to be special. I've been a fan and watching the race for the last couple of years. To know that I'm going to be one of the guys driving right now, it's unbelievable.
All right, now the rest of the day today for you is what? They're getting ready to pull you away here to go to a podium, right? Do you have glasses to make sure you don't burn your eyes?
Yeah, I mean, they've given me like 8 pair of glasses. Apparently my eyes are important for the team, so they're looking after me. But now it's a great day. Obviously busy with some media, but also just seeing and meeting people here. There's a lot of racing fans here as well, which is nice. Nice to see them, recognize other drivers as well. But it's going to be cool to see the Eclipse. I've never seen one live before, so it'll be the first time for me.
Well, you live like in Sweden. I always say Sweden. In Sweden, isn't it like sunlight 23 hours a day or something like that?
I mean, in the winter we have sunlight 1 hour a day, and in the summer it's vice versa.
Good Lord.
Yeah, I know.
Is everyone an alcoholic?
In the winter time, yes. In the summer, everybody loves life, though. That's the difference.
Bet, man. Life's good, right?
Absolutely.
Wear plenty of that SPF. All right, Linus Lundqvist, best of luck. We'll see you in Long Beach, all right?
Thank you, sir.
And I know you got to get up to the podium here. They're going to whisk you away as the events are starting to get underway because we are moving in towards that magical 3 o'clock hour, and I think it's within the next, 15 or 20 minutes where you start to see the beginning, if you will, of the Eclipse. So, a lot going on here, and I'm telling you, people are excited, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's great. We have dancing robots. We have the Purdue marching band. Everybody is pumped for this thing, and the fact that there's also the heavy sports elements to it as well, being out at the Speedway, the most iconic venue in the state of Indiana, while also there being the ripple effects of this being a Purdue-sponsored event with IMS and the Boilermakers, an opportunity to cut down the nets for the first time in men's basketball. It's a special atmosphere.
How hard would it be to start a boiler up chant here, you think, Jimmy?
I don't think it'd be too hard. I see a heavy ratio of boiler
But the Purdue Boilermaker band was just over in the Pagoda Plaza. They've left now, right?
Yeah, they've gone over there now. They're over near the track.
Okay, so if you started the boiler up chant, everything would probably gravitate towards that area, right?
Yes.
So, but I still think we could probably get it done, right? I think so. Probably by the end of the day. But also, people are starting to move away from us because they want to get into the areas where they can see what's going on.
You mean they're not standing under the pagoda? That's not where they're. It's not where they're setting up.
That's right.
Base.
By the way, Brian Walker, who we talked to earlier, thanks for his time. Interesting guy because he's a transfer to Purdue, played his first year at North Carolina State. So that had to have been a significant game for him to sit and watch. I thought in that game, Jimmy, to go back to that Saturday night, Braden Smith clearly struggled. And that is not, to me, that's not a huge red flag because, they win the game. And despite that, my thought is that the odds of a level of a guy that talented and that good, that Braden Smith, you would think, is not going to have back-to-back off nights, if you will. But Connecticut's size and athleticism at the non-center positions is something to me that is of concern.
And you cannot, this is just underlined, boldface, any way you want to write it, type it, whatever. You cannot turn the basketball over the way you did against NC State, against UConn. They turned the ball over 16 times. And I don't want to fully discredit what Purdue was able to do to outlast NC State in that one. But Purdue opened the door multiple times for the Wolfpack to race through, to get a lead, and to maybe control the pace of how that game went because of the turnovers and because of the field goal droughts that Purdue experienced. If they have a stretch like that at any point in time in this game against the Huskies, you'll never be able to slow that team down.
Yeah, that's true. But, Connecticut, to be honest with you, here's the thing about Connecticut to me, Jimmy, that is so both frightening and intriguing, and that is that they can go through those stretches and struggle, but they can also flip a switch, right?
Yes.
And when they flip that switch, you're kind of along for the ride. And they didn't necessarily – they flipped the switch twice against Alabama, and Alabama had the athleticism to rally back from that. I really do think, from a matchup standpoint, that, Edey is dominant. And you saw, and we haven't even discussed that in terms of Edey's dominance Saturday night and the matchup that kind of never materialized, right?
Yeah.
The matchup we wanted to see that never really happened. Burns just had no answer. And part of that was foul trouble early, right? Whichever of those two bigs tonight gets in foul trouble early is going to be really important.
That's the part that, how quick is the whistle on either side of the ball? Whether it's against Klingon, whether it's against Edey. Is this a game where they let the bigs play, or are the officials going to try to dictate how that matchup proceeds? That undercuts. If it goes the other way for Purdue, that undercuts a ton of what they can do. Because this feels like a night for me, Jake, where, yes, that Purdue can beat you in a lot of ways, just like UConn can. I think UConn's extended variables of how they're going to win tonight are greater than Purdue's, just inherently from what you've seen from them all year and this tournament and the roster that they hold. But in terms of that matchup specifically, if Edey gets into foul trouble for what would be the first time this tournament and the first time that I can remember in a long time, what does Matt Painter do? If he gets 2 fouls early, does he go with the, I don't want to say common sense, but the older view of doing things of, hey, you got to sit him now for 7 to 8 minutes so he doesn't get that third? Or do you let him play because you trust him as a senior, as the backbone of this team? That is where things really start to get interesting if the foul situation is present by the officials and it goes against Edey versus 2 fouls picked up by Klingon.
I think tonight there are going to be a couple of things that come into play, Jimmy. One of them is that if Edey is neutralized, then you wonder what happens in terms of, and I could see Purdue taking advantage of that with the following. You can counter an Edey neutralization by getting Trey Kaufman-Renn involved on the other block. If Connecticut is having to use, their size on one side, what happens with Kaufman-Renn on the other side, who is obviously capable of having a big night? But the other thing that comes into play for Purdue is simply the question of what are they going to be able to do in half-court set type situations in terms of shooting the basketball. Bob Lovell yesterday, I saw Coach Bob Lovell. We were at an event for Mark Shane, who got inducted into the Indiana Sportscaster and Sports Writers Hall of Fame. Congratulations to Mark. So we were at the awards for that. And during that awards presentation, Bob Lovell was there, and he and I were talking. And he said, when it comes down to it, basketball becomes a game of in or out. Can you put the ball in the basket, or is the ball going out of the basket? And it really is that simple. And Purdue's got to be able tonight to shoot the basketball. And that has to come from Lawyer and then maybe Gillis if he gets going, one of those two, in complement to something on the block. And that may come from Renn. But I think Connecticut's supporting cast maybe is not as deep as Purdue's, Jimmy, but they can run and score, and I don't know that you have as much drop-off, say 2 to 6. In other words, Purdue, if they go to like a Caleb First or Colvin, they can go 8-9 deep. But the quality of player for Connecticut from 2 to 6 is probably more consistent across the board than it is for Purdue 2 to 6, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that to a large extent, and that's why you hope, at least in terms of matchups, on both sides. And if you're just wanting a good game tonight, you hope that on the UConn side, it's Castle, it's Newton, it's Spencer, it's Klingon, and you're seeing that starting 5 be the team or be the group that gets the majority of the minutes. I mean, that's what happened against Bama. You look across the board, this is not outside of Diarra, this is not a bench that was getting high-level minutes in the semifinal against Bama. You're looking at 30 minutes for Caravan, 29 minutes for Klingon, 30 for Castle, 35 for Newton, 36 for Spencer. That's the starting 5 of the Huskies. Then they get 23 off the bench from Diarra, 23 minutes off the bench from him. That's it. You played so well-disciplined that you're not having to utilize your bench throughout most of this tournament because of how deep you are from a 5 to 6 standpoint. Yeah, if this gets into a point where the bench has to come into play, then perhaps it does favor Purdue a little more. But where the matchup I don't want to discredit what Purdue's guards have been able to do. But I feel like because this has been the story all season, Jake, you need 30-35 from Edie to walk out of there with a win. Like you need a dominant Zach Edie performance. I'm not saying it's the only path to victory, but that's where I would feel most comfortable with this Purdue team. And Zach Edie is once again getting what he wants at will, and it would be like Zach Edie 30, 20 from Braden Smith, 12 from Fletcher Lawyer, maybe 9 from Lance Jones. I'm just simulating the championship game for you. But that's where I want to see it from top to bottom, is a box score that's led by Zach Edie.
Yeah, I think if Edie gets you 35, you're doing it, right? Yeah. I mean, there's no question. But I don't know that that's what's necessary for them to win it all, right?
No, they have other paths to victory than that. But if you're talking about neutralizing Edie, well, if Edie's able to neutralize Klingon and get his again, you're well on your way here if you're Purdue. And it takes pressure off of, even though I think, Jake, compared to a year ago, there's no doubt these Purdue guards are better prepared to take the load off Edie. That's how you beat them a year ago, right? You double and triple Edie, and the guards aren't going to beat you. Fletcher Lawyer and Braden Smith, that's not the case anymore. Fletcher Lawyer's fist bumping the crowd after making a big-time three or making the right pass to Braden Smith and Lance Jones. This is a confident group at every position from a guard standpoint for them compared to where it was a year ago, where I do agree with you. You don't need that, but boy, would it make life easier if he's able to just have his way tonight.
I mean, you're right. I mean, that goes without saying. But, and look, he's been spectacular. And Edie has a focus about him that is very hard to overlook, right? I mean, when you look at the look in his eyes, Jimmy, he has a look about him that you just cannot.
It looks like Michael Phelps in 2008 when he was going for gold, and just you panned over to him, and it's just this locked-in stare of just no other noise. Now, I mean, you can name any great champion, but the Phelps stare that kind of went viral in 2008 and in 12, that's the kind of vibes that I get from exactly what you're talking about. Zach Edie looks like he's not messing around.
Yeah, that's correct. He definitely has a look about him. Now, the other big story that we have not gotten to necessarily today, Jimmy, in college basketball, and it happened very late last night, and I don't know if this is now official, but it is all but done. John Calipari, and I know it's not necessarily of local, but it is to an extent interest. It has certainly ramification within the state of Indiana. John Calipari now on his way apparently to Arkansas to become the head coach of the Razorbacks and leaving behind Kentucky. To me, the bigger question mark in this is not even necessarily about what this means for Arkansas or college basketball, but rather what Kentucky does. How does Kentucky answer this now?
Well, the pool and the names for rumor mills for Kentucky are already out there, and you've mentioned them.
Now, let me guess.
Go ahead.
How many names have you seen in the rumor mill, or what the latest is, and I'll tell you who they are.
I currently have five names in front of me.
Nate Oates.
Yes.
Chris Beard.
Yes.
Mark Few.
No.
Okay. Bruce Pearl.
No, but I have seen his name, but not
that's one that you would almost assume,
yes,
right?
Yes.
Bruce Pearl, certainly I would think probably has made a phone call of inquiry.
Yeah, I would if I was him.
All right, give me the others.
Billy Donovan.
Yep.
Dan Hurley, who again, we talked about that to start the show. I don't know. Money always talks, but if I was Hurley and being the kind of East Coast, Northeastern guy that he is, and you've built a dynasty effectively if you win tonight with UConn, I'd have a hard time leaving to start fresh, but who's to say when money talks? Billy Donovan, who has Kentucky ties, an alum there. And this one, I think, is just there for clickbait because I can't imagine they would actually do it. But Rick Pitino has been thrown around.
Yeah, I've seen Pitino
for obvious reasons.
Around.
But
I mean, Pitino can still coach. There's no doubt about that. But look, Kentucky's, and this is the thing about Kentucky. Kentucky's going to do what Arkansas did. They're not going to mess around. Kentucky's going to say, who's the guy we want? Who's the guy we need? Let's go get him.
Yeah.
And you talk about, if it's Dan Hurley that they want, they're going to go to Dan Hurley and go, you want $8 million a year? What's he making? I don't know what he's making in Connecticut.
I have to look it up.
But I'll bet they double it, if not triple. The thing, here's what's fascinating about Dan Hurley in Connecticut. We don't think of this, Jimmy, but Connecticut is, I mean, the dynasty that they have right now. But have you ever gone anywhere and met a diehard Connecticut fan other than somebody that lives and stores Connecticut? You don't see anybody. I was just in Vegas, right?
Yeah.
something happened there that was very eye-opening to me, and the epiphany came to me even more cemented on Saturday. I'll let you know what that is, and we will get ready for darkness, if you will, when we come back to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
If you're unaware, T-Mobile calls themselves the uncarrier, which is fitting considering they've just unraveled their price lock guarantee for new customers. If you ask me, that's
Eclipse will take place. As you can hear, there are cars on track right now. They are doing kind of a showcase of why this has become the beloved venue that it is. Crowd is starting to work its way out now into the seating area of IMS. We are here at the Pagoda Plaza, where there has been a plethora of activity, festivities taking place, everything from dancing robots to music to exhibitions and screen displays from NASA explaining what will be taking place. And then, of course, the fact that this is co-partnered with Purdue University makes it particularly special and eventful for so many people because of the fact that Purdue playing tonight in the national championship game in Arizona, Glendale, Arizona, just after 9 o'clock. It is Purdue and the Huskies of Connecticut for the national championship. That is the 11th time that a team from the state of Indiana in terms of collegiately will play for the college basketball national championship in the tournament era. Joining, of course, Indiana, who has done so 6 times. This will be the second for Purdue. You have, with the Butler Bulldogs, to Indiana State one. And so there are a lot of eyes on everything that's taking place. But right now, all of the eyes are starting to think about moving up towards the sky because the sun is the story at this point. We had mentioned this story with John Calipari going to Arkansas and what that means in terms of Kentucky and trying to find their next coach, and the fact that they're just simply, you would think, going to say, let's just go out and get it done, right? And Dan Hurley's name came to mind and is one that will be speculated about because he is right now the guy that has things rolling to the highest level for his college basketball program. But, Jimmy, the thing about Connecticut to me that is intriguing is the fact that here is a program that is on the cusp of a 6th national championship, its 5th national championship within this century alone, showing no signs of letting up. And yet, you don't have like a marquee necessarily NBA name that you think about when you think of Connecticut. I mean, Ray Allen is a great player, but it's not like Kentucky where you go to an NBA game and there are just players littered all over the place that were players that played in Connecticut. And in addition to that, when you just go out in the general public, you don't see Connecticut fans walking around all over the place. It's not like Duke or North Carolina. But this is the program from a wins and losses standpoint, Jimmy, that's been the preeminent one in college basketball.
Well, and they've done it because they've been able to do what their record said in title games. They're a perfect 5-0 in national championship games. And they've done it over – they're the modern Blue. You're looking for a program that is clearly far and away the modern representation outside of the Dukes, the North Carolinas, of what it means to be a blue blood. It is UConn. And that's in part combining conversations here in regards to what Kentucky may or may not wind up doing with their head coaching situation. If you're Dan Hurley, yes, you're going to have resources, you're going to have NIL money, you would have everything over there for yourself if you got an offer from Kentucky. But you have built or reestablished after a 10-year absence a national title last year, and then on the doorstep of back-to-back national titles this year. And they have future potential NBA players, but you're right, they don't pop the same way that Kentucky has in the past or like Kentucky did in that run in 2012. This feels like the matchup, though, that if you could have looked at all the seeds, every seed line, every potential matchup to start the tournament, 2 teams that you think of the entire field of 64 that are capable of going on 15-0 runs, 17-0 runs, or in that case, a 30-0 run like we saw from over Illinois, it's UConn. You think of them that way. You think of the same way about Purdue. There's a level of just inevitability about Purdue, just like there is UConn, that I agree with what a lot of people have said today, Jake. I think it's going to be a close game. I think that it's going to be within striking distance for either side, and ultimately, I think a lot of it is going to come down to who wins that matchup between Clingan and Edey, and do you get a bounce-back performance to the point from Braden Smith that everything is, sky's the limit. Let's go cut down some net.
I love the fact that you said sky's the limit because the sky's the story of the day, right? I almost feel like at this point, Jimmy, we start not literally, I'm saying figuratively, but in about 10 minutes here,
that you almost start shifting from, like, do we talk about sports or do we talk about the sky? It's unbelievable out here. It's super cool.
The fact that everybody is here for the Eclipse itself.
The fact that everybody is here for the Eclipse itself. And attention is starting to go that way. For that matter, one of the key guys who's out here to watch all of it, and I have of course, the Verizon number 12 Chevrolet for Roger Penske, who will be in the Indianapolis 500 48 days from now. Is that right?
That's right.
You seem excited by that.
Yeah, I had to think. I'm not like counting the days down, to be honest.
This whole thing, this is pretty wild, right?
It is pretty wild. I'm shocked, man, of how many people are here. I came in this morning. I had something on the Weather Channel that was live, and suddenly there's just all this traffic. Like it's like a carb day or something at Indianapolis.
It is.
But it's a great chance to introduce fans to IndyCar racing.
Well, I think that's the thing,
Very good chance. So, I hope they watch the run by Eclipse. I said, Roger, we should have a whole bunch of cars out there. Yeah, I'm going to run. It would have looked awesome.
It is pretty unbelievable. Now, I want to know, if you come out solo, did you bring the kids out here? You doing the whole deal, or are they back home?
No, back home at school. I'm just hanging out here for a couple of days, a few days, then I'm ready to go to Long Beach.
How long do we sound on test? And part of my naivety here, Will Power winning this. IndyCar is going to go to the hybrid engine midway through the year. I assume is that what you're testing at this point?
No, we're only testing what we're actually running at the 500.
Okay, so 500 testing.
Yes, yes.
You have been in, and obviously won this race. What do you realistically learn in a test? You didn't already know the numbers of laps you turned out.
It's actually more for the engineers, I'm going to be honest. I think, you get in traffic, you talk about your car setup, but really it's for them to check off all the development they've done aerodynamically in the off season. We have a lot to check off. We do. It's crazy, but the amount of laps that changes every year. And, I feel like the team has done a lot of work again. I mean, we've been working hard the last 5 years. No joke, like really hard. So I'm hoping it all comes together this year for us as far as, qualifying speed.
Now, in the time that you have been here, Will Power, our guest, you grew up in, I'm going to try to remember the name of the town, Toowoomba, Australia?
Yes, Toowoomba.
Toowoomba, Australia is where you grew up. You moved to the United States, I'm going to guess, what, 06, 07?
06, yeah.
Okay. And then you lived in Indianapolis for a while. You still live in North Carolina, right?
Yeah.
Have you gotten the college basketball bug in the time you've been here? National championship game tonight, Purdue, Connecticut. Like, do you get into March Madness at all?
No, but my wife does massively because she went to Purdue.
So you have no choice,
so
right?
And we got the Purdue flag up. And she's texting me, did you get a picture with, what's the mascot's name?
Purdue Pete, yeah.
Yeah, Purdue Pete. I'm like, no, I was actually standing with him. I was like, I went to grab my phone. I didn't have it, so I didn't get a picture with him. But, yeah, no, she's all in on that.
The Purdue University Marching Band is here. You could have gone and, you played the drums, right?
Yeah, I heard the drums. I was like, I'll get on and do a bit of drum line.
Who's your favorite drummer?
I mean, I like Travis Barker. I mean, I like a lot of these guys. I mean, Dave Grohl's a great drummer.
Who's your favorite band?
That's a tough one, too.
If you could go see anybody in concert, who would you pick?
Well, I'm going to see Mariah Carey.
Oh, nice.
That is not the answer I thought we were going for there, Will.
Next Wednesday. But that was, if you've ever been into singing and you do any vocal work, you understand that she is one of the best vocalists.
Oh, she's insane.
Okay, hold on.
And I want to hear that live.
Let me tell you my one Mariah Carey story, Will. When I was a much younger guy in the mid-'90s, I was an intern at MTV in New York, and there was a security guard at MTV that said he was friends with Mariah Carey, and it was right when she was becoming a star. And we're like, there's no way you're friends with Mariah Carey. And he's like, no, I'm friends with Mariah Carey. So he says, as a matter of fact, we had a party last week, and Mariah Carey had a little bit too much to drink and went skinny dipping. And we're like, no way. So the next day, I come in, and he has like 9 photos of Mariah Carey skinny dipping, and I'm like, he is, in fact, friends with Mariah Carey.
Naked?
Yeah.
Like full naked. Like,
Yeah.
dude, those pictures would be worth so much.
You're not kidding, right?
Them, like, what?
You're not kidding, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it was with a big group of people skinny dipping, but it was definitely Mariah Carey. So how did you get roped into seeing Mariah Carey?
No, I was told my wife I want to see Mariah Carey.
I can respect that,
in
though, because she
Vegas.
is a fabulous entertainer,
Like, I
right?
want to see that voice live. I want to hear that voice live, man. Like, I wish I'd seen her when she was at her prime, like when her vocals were
Well, I did. She was skinny dipping.
Yeah.
Trust me.
Yeah.
Right?
But when she, like, even whistles, she can go so high with
Yeah,
the whistles
for
with her
sure.
voice. Like, it's insane.
So now I was just at the Sphere in Vegas. Have you been to the Sphere yet?
I have not.
Unbelievable. I saw you two in the Sphere.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. It was, you know what? It was like the start of the Indy 500. Like, you can't describe it to somebody unless you're there and
Yeah.
you see it. You know what I mean?
No way, yeah.
It was a pretty unbelievable experience. But do you get jazzed up? Like, this time of year, Will Power, our guest, I mean, you got obviously Long Beach coming up, then Barber, and then you get into, you know, the month of May and everything that goes into it. Do you get jazzed up for it?
I am jazzed up this year. I really am. Like, I'm very much looking forward to coming here.
As opposed to other years, for what reason?
I don't know. I mean, it's been a few years since I won it, and I've just grown to just love the race. Like, if I'm standing in pit lane and I see in practice a big group go past, man, it gives me goosebumps now. Like, it just gives me goosebumps. I think that is the coolest thing, and I'm just stoked to do it. So I'm way more excited than I used to be like a decade ago to be at this place.
Well, I mean, you're usually like pretty low key and like reserved, right? Or is that just how we see it?
No, but for this place, it was always a big stress for me, man. Like, I was always like, you had the pressure, you had to win it, and it's such a big month and stressful. But I am looking forward to it. You know what? I'm enjoying all the other stuff that you do with racing, like, you know, the appearances and all that, because you know you're not going to get to do them for all that much longer.
So I'm trying to find it here, but my highlight a year ago, my absolute highlight for the month of May was, here it is right here. Now, see if you even remember this moment. You probably have like thousands of these, right?
Yeah, well, if I see an Aussie flag, I'm like, yes.
So this was when I brought my Australian friends to the 500, and we were at the parade, and I got them an Aussie flag, and they're waving it, and you went bonkers. And you're high-fiving them. You come off the car. Now,
nice.
These guys went crazy,
awesome,
right?
man.
So do you remember that moment, though? Or like any,
I do. I know if I see Australian flag, because I did a few of them, so I can't remember that specific moment, but yeah.
So if people want to meet Will Power, they got to bring an Aussie flag.
If they have an Aussie flag, I'll jump out of the car. Especially as a group of
Just
them with
not
an
during the
Aussie
race,
flag.
right?
Not during the race, no.
Okay, lastly, take me through the schedule of events for you today. I hope you brought eyewear, right?
I've got eyewear. Well, there's plenty of them. They're giving them out, but yeah, I'm actually really interested to see this Eclipse. It's something I've never really taken notice of, so it's a big deal. It'll be good.
It's the epicenter of the world, Will. Indianapolis is the epicenter of the world.
Yeah, it really is. This
people in
is
Toowoomba,
pretty
Australia
cool.
right now are envious of people in Indianapolis, Indiana.
Now, I think Toowoomba's the only place in Australia the eclipse happens. So
everything happens there, right? All right. Well, hey, Will, we will see you in Long Beach and then Barber, and then the month you're looking forward to between the Grand Prix and, of course, the Indianapolis 500, the parade, and everything else,
Should I grow a beard until I win a race?
Can you grow a beard?
I'm not allowed to, but it might just...
You're not allowed to contractually?
Yeah, no, not contractually. Well, I can, but Roger hates it. But if I did it, he would give me the best start. He's like, we've got to get his beard off this guy.
That's actually a pretty good
give him the best
strategy,
IndyCar. Give him the best car for Indy.
Okay, if you didn't how long would it take you to grow a full, like, mountain man beard?
Mountain man beard? I don't know. Like, in a week, you have a lot of... Like, 7 days, you got quite a bit, but... Yeah, I mean, as long as it takes to grow a beard, I don't know. It's the same head.
Here's the problem, though. If you started this at the beginning of the year and then you won St. Pete, you'd have to wait. You'd have to wait like a month anyway, right?
Yeah.
That's the only challenge with it.
Yeah, no, I should have done. No, well, look, let's just say, gonna win a race between now.
Fair enough.
And Indianapolis.
And just think, when you're watching Mariah Carey, you can say to yourself, you know, she went skinny dipping once.
I want to see those photos. If you could just organize that.
I don't know what happened to the guy. I'm betting he probably is no longer the receptionist and security guy MTV Networks. Will, appreciate it. Have fun. We will see you in Long Beach.
Thank you. All right,
keep an
see
eye
ya.
on our buddy David here as well. Our hero is Will Power, the driver of the number 12 Horizon Chevrolet for Roger Penske. A lot going on, and Gene Keady is going to join us about 40 minutes from now, which will be a lot of fun. It's been an active day here at the Speedway, to say the least. But, you know, back to what we were talking about with the game tonight, you know, there are areas of that game, if you are Purdue, that you are taking a look at and that could be of concern. What are those exactly? We will talk about that, and Gene Keady will join us bottom of the hour as well. From the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, you're listening to Query & Company on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
What if the next time you painted your home was the last time you painted your home?
Several things happening today that many thought they would never see. Many thought they would never see Purdue playing for the national championship in college basketball. That gets underway after the 9 o'clock hour in Glendale, Arizona. As we have mentioned several times, the 11th time that a school from the state of Indiana will be in the championship game. There have been 4 different schools from Indiana to accomplish that feat. That is the second highest number for any state, behind only California. Many thought they would never see a total eclipse in terms of that being in the path of totality in Indianapolis, Indiana. And that's exactly what we will see today. And the third thing that many thought never would be seen, nor did I, but it is happening today for this one-time event. Derek Schultz has a credential to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway with more access icons than I.
Can you spell out what that says right there on the little top, this little purple bar?
VIP, it
For
says.
those at home, VIP, pagoda, and private restrooms. Look at that. Huh?
Are those properly sized?
I think it's for everybody, Jimmy. I'm not entirely sure. But, yeah, thank you for pointing that out, Jake. I appreciate it.
You have, is that a men's room you have?
Yeah, just no big deal. It's just a VIP washroom of some sort, executive VIP washroom.
Well, I know where one of those is that nobody knows about, so I'm good on that. But the other two you got, I don't have.
Gotcha.
Okay, so take me through what, Derek Schultz joining us now. You are also with Purdue University. Big day for the Boilers, and I don't mean in basketball.
Yeah, this is really, it's surreal, right? That this is all kind of happening at once here with the Total Solar Eclipse event, which we're sponsoring, and thanks to our great partners at NASA.
You guys are the ones that got the moon to do that?
Yeah, isn't that amazing? And the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Boilermaker engineers, baby. That's how it happened. No, but we've had astronauts out here. Purdue's had 27 of those, the Cradle of Astronauts, of course. The fact that it's at the track, and we've put a lot of people in the Indianapolis 500 as far as engineers from our programs in Indianapolis, which would be part of Purdue University in Indianapolis. So we're excited to be here, for sure. And, of course, culminating with, it's still weird, isn't it, guys, to say Purdue's playing for national championship tonight? Like, it's just weird. It's weird to verbalize that or to see somebody say that, but it's actually happening.
Do you think we can get a boiler up chant started, Derek?
I'll say this. There are just Purdue people everywhere.
I know,
right?
but can you start it? Can we get it?
Well, you need like a whistle, like a toot toot. Boiler up. Just toot toot. Boiler up.
I bet we can get it started, though. Is what I'm saying is, Jimmy, do you want to talk while Derek and I try to get it started and see if we can get it going?
Absolutely. If you guys want to go ahead. So Jake and Derek are going to go ahead and try to start a boiler up chant. It's very much the theme right now of today, as you would expect with, as Derek mentioned, this being sponsored, the whole event here at IMS being sponsored by Purdue and NASA, as Jake and Derek attempt to get this boiler up chant started. They got a little bit. Jake, the problem is Jake missed the boat. The opportunity to do that was when the band was here, when you had the highest
couldn't hear
volume.
over the band.
All right, but they were walking around after they were done playing. You would have had an army of trumpets and drums and the whole nine to get behind you with the Purdue marching band, and now, I mean, I got to be honest, guys. I hate to be the judge here, but since I didn't have to participate in said chant, that was about a 3 in terms of what I would have expected earlier today. I'm sorry.
I know. Well, the guy right here in Purdue, he was ready to go, but
he was.
What we said.
Jimmy's biased.
Derek, this is actually kind of an eclipse for you, also, right? Because you have your past life in Connecticut and your current life in Purdue merging together. I know you weren't a UConn fan, but you grew up in Connecticut. But we were just talking about the fact it is amazing to me that this is a program that realistically has been the preeminent program in college basketball of this century.
Yeah.
And yet they don't seem to have the overall, like, NBA infiltration, one and done cachet, people wearing UConn stuff anywhere you go level branding. But what they've done is truly impressive.
Yeah, I'm old enough to remember Tate George's shot to beat Eldon Campbell and Clemson in 1990 was this breakthrough moment for UConn, and then they lost on a much less famous Christian Laettner buzzer beater in the Elite Eight that year. People don't remember that one because they talk about the game against Kentucky in 92, the shot, one of the great moments in college basketball history. But yeah, I mean, I remember them making the regional final in 95 and losing to UCLA. I remember them losing to Carolina in 98. And then that first breakthrough in 99 with Rip Hamilton and Khalid Al-Amin. And they very much were like the pro team in Connecticut. But, Jake, I had UConn shoved down my throat 24/7, 365 for my whole life. And I made the decision early on that I was going to root for my parents' alma mater. And they happened to attend a school called Indiana University, which was the worst decision that I ever made in my life. Because I could very easily have been a UConn fan this entire time instead of an IU basketball fan like I was as a kid. But
yeah, but you got to storm the field when they beat Wisconsin once in football, right?
I did, yeah. My sister, my brother-in-law, all of my high school friends are all UConn people, and so I really need Purdue to win this game tonight just so I don't have to hear about it from them. But it is a little bit surreal. I mean, I went through it with UConn Butler. You know, when Butler played him in the championship game, it was kind of the same thing where I had to hear from my mouthy high school friends, so hopefully that doesn't repeat itself tonight.
They need to do what in order to win the game? And don't say score more points.
Play a perfect game. Play a perfect game. UConn is just on a level that's been different than everybody else. Purdue's a great team, and they deserve to be here. And these were the two best teams. But UConn is historic, all-time level great. And so it's going to take that level of performance. I mean, they're going to have to get Klingon into foul trouble. They're going to have to hit shots. Braden Smith's going to have to be much, much better than he was against NC State. Lance Jones is going to have to be his usual self. All of these things. Purdue's going to have to check all of these boxes in order to – there's a path for them to win, for sure. But they need all of those things to happen, I think, simultaneously.
Speaking of path, by the way, the path of totality tonight, I got a list, or today I got a list of all these cities. Jimmy, I want you to run down for me which ones you think would be cooler to be at than Indianapolis right now. Not many.
Burlington, Vermont's one of them, right? That's kind of a neat
Vermont
place.
is one, yeah. It is a cool city.
San Antonio, you and I had a great time in San Antonio.
Yeah, you did.
You and I, best friends?
Yeah, okay.
Watched the Jersey Shore Marathon.
Yeah, you kept saying, hang on, they're about to fight. You got time to stick around, you got to run.
No, I got the whole rest of the afternoon, man.
Oh, wow, great.
Yeah.
Well, how lucky did we get? We'll continue here at IMS. You're listening to Aquarium Company on The Fan.
The IRS finally caught up with Louie.
The month of madness, or the culmination of it after March. The madness has begun. If you get out your glasses, and please make sure that you are wearing them, you can start to see the first sliver of the moon crossing over the sun. It's pretty cool. Temperatures dropped drastically, huh, Derek?
I've never actually experienced one of these, so you're asking the wrong person. But I heard the animals get like quiet and stuff, and it's like a total sunset everywhere.
Well, it's darkness. Yeah, that's what happens. Yeah.
Okay, see, you asked me a question, then you act like I'm an idiot for answering it. So I'm sorry. This is why I don't, Jimmy. This is why I don't answer his questions.
No, I'm saying the temperature's starting to drop now.
This is why I decided to leave. Really, is what happened. I know what the Star headline was when we got let go, but really it was more me deciding to leave because I couldn't do it anymore.
Okay,
just couldn't.
Okay, it was guys. Simon and Garfunkel over here. That was where things went down. Okay, good to know.
Here's the path of totality for today. And by the way, Gene Keady going to join us bottom of the hour. Purdue, Connecticut tonight, national championship game. We are at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway for this total eclipse. San Antonio is in the path. A little bit Austin, and Waco and Dallas. Those are four cool spots, right?
Yeah. Waco. You like Waco because you're a weirdo. I don't think most people are like, oh, yeah,
well,
Waco, Texas.
But you got the Baylor effect / the Chip and Joanna Gaines effect in Waco. My wife took a trip there solely to go see with her mom the whole Magnolia Chip and Joanna Gaines setup that's over there in Waco.
See, he's thinking.
I know why he's thinking of it. Yeah.
And all that.
Yeah.
Well, you know, there's a bear that lives on campus at Baylor, and my buddy and I went, Byron and I went, and we were like, well, we got to go see the bear.
Tried to take a photo at its house, and it got mad at you?
He was in his house, and I'm like, well, he's taking a nap. And then I'm like, we'll just wait for a little bit and see if he eventually comes out. And then I'm like, wait a minute, I forgot he's hibernating. He's going to be in there for like 3 months.
So you almost got eaten by a bear and shot while trying to get on the Branch Davidians ground.
Correct. Yeah,
in
that's
the same
correct.
trip.
Yeah, that's right.
That was a busy trip.
I did make it onto the grounds of the Branch Davidian complex, though, Derek. Thank you for reminding me.
Mm-hmm.
It was cool. I brought you back that flyer. Remember, they had an informational flyer.
I didn't even want to touch it. I was worried like bad karma or whatever. Yeah, no bueno.
Texarkana in the path.
Okay.
Little Rock.
I actually heard that Little Rock and Arkansas is.
So you boys are from Alabama,
cool.
huh? Little Rock's a hell of a town. Your thoughts on John Calipari going to be near Little Rock up in Fayetteville?
Beating the gang out of town. It is the ultimate example of time for both sides to move on. Time for Cal to move on, time for UK to move on. I firmly believe that. It worked for a while, and then it stopped working, and it's time to try something else.
Tonight's matchup, the highlight of it is the battle between Donovan Clingan and Zach Edey. I know the answer because I like to cheat on these kind of things, but I'll ask you, didn't know this, first battle of 7-footers in a national final since when?
In a national final?
Yes.
Well, Ewing and Olajuwon, right? Probably 84.
Yep. There you go. Yep.
Is that right?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
First time you've seen 2 7-footers go at it sinceEwing and Olajuwon back in '84.
Yeah. Wow.
I don't know that this matchup is going to be confused by anybody.
No, I don't think it will. I don't think it will either.
You know. But what I will say is Clingan is a lottery pick, and Zach Edey is going to be a first rounder. And I think pound for pound, Zach Edey, just purely as a college player, right? Because that's what this is one of the 30 greatest college players of all time. 40. Somewhere in that range.
You know,
he won the. He's going to win the Nixon Award twice.
Yeah. The thing that's interesting to me is why Clingan is considered to be the superior pro prospect when his game, I think, is similar to Edey's, right? Edey's just a bigger version of that same game. I mean, fleet of foot, would that be the difference?
Yeah, Edey is a lot more athletic than people give him credit.
I know he is.
And he's shown some of that. And he's a different player this year than he was in 23. He's a better player. I didn't think he could get better, and he got a lot better. I think it's just the athleticism. You know, UConn across the board, Jake. That's just what they bring to the table. They've got it in bunches.
Anytime you can have a big, the eyes are going to light up for any scout. But when you add in any extra amount of mobility, I feel like at the next level, it takes your stock further than it would.
It's windy. It's getting cold. You feel that? It's getting cold out here.
It feels great because I got a quarter zip on, and
I know, but it's getting chilly. It's getting chilly. It's starting to drop because the sun. There's less sun.
Are you glad you brought your jacket?
Yeah, oh yeah. No, I did, and I'm telling you, Jimmy, you're going to be freezing. What did Angela Buckman tell us? 12 degrees, 15 degrees?
I think she said 10, but yeah, that's.
Oh, did you get Angela on the show?
Yeah.
Good. I'm glad I was able to help with that.
No, I just texted her and she came over.
Yeah, you texted me first, so I was glad I was able to.
No, actually, Longnecker gave me her number, but thanks. No, Anne-Marie did. Anne-Marie Turner.
What is the overall mood from Purdue fans, Purdue employees that you've talked to in terms of tonight? Because we've talked about this a lot today. Yeah. To me, yes, you want to win the thing. Like my dad had Butler season tickets. I grew up a Butler fan along with, going to Indiana and rooting for IU. But as the years went by from 10 and 11, there was still a feeling of, oh, what an accomplishment for a small school like Butler. I know it's different because Purdue's a big-time program, right? But there was always that feeling of, man, what could have been? But for Purdue, I feel like there's already a sense of you've broken through that glass ceiling because of all the demons that this tournament has given you the last 5 to 10 years. Is there a feeling of, yes, you want to win the thing, but also that past era is behind us now because you're in a national final?
Yeah, that feeling of existential dread, right?
Yeah. Right.
Which I think a lot of Purdue fans would admit that they carry, waiting for the other shoe to drop, waiting for there is no disaster scenario. UConn could win this game by 75 points tonight, and this season would still be, at worst, the second best season in Purdue basketball history, and they've got a great history. So I agree. What I buck against is, somebody tweeted me, oh, this is like a house money game. A title game is not a house money game.
No.
You're 40 minutes away from everything.
And they're not a 7 seed. They were in the conversation to be a consensus number 1 all year.
From history, I mean, at worst, they were considered the third best team this year, and that was if you're counting Houston being one of them. So I disagree that this is a house money game. But I do think that you're already here. You want to go ahead and take care of business because you've got a truly special player in Edie. And just a really great group. You know, Lance Jones has added a whole new dimension to this team. There'll be more games from Braden Smith and from Fletcher Lawyer and guys like that, assuming, you know, this is the portal era. But I think Purdue is somewhat insulated from that.
Rick Mount was very blunt about it when we had him on last week. If you don't win it, you're going to get forgotten. Like, in terms of the annals of history, maybe not in the Purdue community, but he had that takeaway of if you don't capitalize, you will be lost as who finished second.
Here's how I would say it. You would be remembered more for winning it.
Right, yes.
They're still going to be remembered for this because it's the third time ever that they've gone to the Final Four, and it's a more memorable run than the 80 run where they kind of not stumbled into it,
I
but
think
it was
he just meant the scale of it nationally, right?
I hear you. But I mean, I remember 91 Vegas. I remember 05 Illinois. You know, I remember some of these great teams at 21 Gonzaga that weren't able to come through. So I don't think that they wouldn't be, you know, remembered at all. I just think that there's something so special and historic that's on the line for them.
Derek Schultz with us here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway as the Eclipse now underway. As a matter of fact, we are just under an hour away from total darkness. Carbondale and Evansville in the path.
So 2 Valley schools, right?
That's right.
SIU and UE.
Paducah,
Kentucky?
What's that?
Yeah, buddy.
Can you use that voice but talk about Cal leaving to
What do you think they're doing? Yeah, what's a
man.
guy in Paducah right now, a Paducah, Kentucky sports talk radio guy that just called in about Cal on the day the Eclipse is saying what?
Well, they're happy. At least the UK fans that I've talked to, they're happy. Right. This isn't like they think they're getting Hurley. Have you heard this?
Yes, I have.
We're on our second bottle of shine.
Yeah. Please tell me the preposterous level of that. Okay, I guess they throw a wheelbarrow of money.
Anything's possible.
A Scrooge McDuck level of money.
Dan Hurley's a Jersey guy. Like he fits UConn so well. He would win anywhere.
Where was Pitino from?
Fair point. And if you win this year at UConn, I guess like what else is there to do there?
Is that automatically ready for the next challenge? Is that what that becomes?
Yeah. UK to me is still one of the 3 or 4 great jobs that there is, but you have to know what you're signing up for. It's a whole different animal than any of these, Michigan, Ohio State. It's a whole different animal than Louisville with the expectations and all of that.
Evansville? Did I mention Evansville?
Yeah, you mentioned.
Okay.
We're going more into like
Dayton?
What, tip of Ohio? Yeah, Dayton. Okay.
Columbus is like half and half.
Nah.
If you're on the west side of Columbus, you're screwed. Akron?
Akron. I went to a wedding in Akron.
You know, I heard property values in Columbus, depending on what side you were on, went up and down today.
That's
it was
right.
Weird. The fluctuation is crazy.
Right.
Airbnbs were through the roof.
Wait, you went to a wedding in
Akron.
Who got married in Akron?
My buddy Scott McCauley, who you know, got married in Akron. That was where his wife was from.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Are they big Zip fans?
No, they were big Ohio State.
Okay.
Ohio State people.
Cleveland?
Cleveland's cool. I defend Cleveland.
Cleveland's right in the back.
I like Cleveland.
Erie? Erie seems appropriately named, right? For the
that was the halfway point to get to my parents' house from Bloomington. I drive from college.
Do you think they parlay some type of Halloween themed deal in Erie for the Eclipse?
Yes.
I think that's
They'd have to, right?
Two-way thing. I would
Buffalo?
Buffalo.
I'm all in on the Sabres, Derek.
Yeah.
My buddy McConnell and I and Byron, we adopted the Sabres.
It's
pretty
hockey team.
It's pretty dark there in January.
Yeah.
Rochester? Syracuse, Watertown?
Okay.
Oh, how about this one? Lake Placid.
People don't realize how big New York State is. New York State is huge.
Lake Placid would be cool.
Yeah. I hear there's nothing there, though, besides the fact that the Olympics were there. Is there stuff else?
So
there
I've been to Lake Placid.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating because the Olympic Village is all still there.
Yeah.
And that's basically all that's there. But the arena where the Miracle on Ice took place is still used for like youth hockey.
That's pretty sweet.
And there's kids like walking around and stuff. By the way,
and the chemtrails.
Look right at it.
I mean, gotta ask these questions, Jake. I'm a question asker.
Derek, you should go across the hall next time you're on the show, right? Okay, tonight I look at it this way for Purdue. I think it comes down to, Derek, I'll put the student trivia for him. There's no right answer or wrong answer, although if you're wrong, you know. To me, the two players not named Zach Edey that are the most important tonight.
I think
let me rephrase that. The two guys that if they, in my opinion, if Purdue gets a combination of 30 points a combination of 30 points from two different guys, then there's no way that they cannot win that game. And those two players are.
I think it's all about Lawyer and Smith. I just feel like if they're controlled, and Smith largely was controlled in that NC State game, there's not a path to victory. I think they need both Smith and Lawyer to be on it. Lawyer hitting shots and Smith controlling the offense and doing some scoring, not just assists and rebounds and contributing in other ways.
Do you think Edey needs 30?
Well.
Or more?
I think they're going to have to make 10 to 12 threes. So I don't know if I'll do a hard cut at 30, but yeah, he probably needs to do more than he did offensively against NC State.
Here's what they need to do to answer kind of in summary of all that. First off, I think Trey Kaufman-Wren's really important.
Yeah.
Because if Edey gets neutralized or anything happens there, then Wren, I think, becomes very important because he can take advantage of if they're sliding over to him.
Yeah, he's your safety valve in a way.
But Lawyer for sure, and the outside game. But if they can establish Edey early, and I don't mean, Derek, even establish him from a scoring standpoint, but if they can get Klingon in foul trouble early or simply establish a few shots for him, then that allows for those shooters to get open space, and that's going to become important.
Yeah, and I just think where they have the advantage is three-point shooting too. So if they can really double up UConn on three-point shots, 12, UConn makes 6, it's going to have to take something like that.
You also can't, and I know this probably goes without saying, but if they are as careless with the basketball as they were against NC State, this thing's done. Like, NC State had opportunities to really flex their muscle. I mean, 16 turnovers.
Yeah.
There's no real way to beat Purdue, right? We've joked about this all year. When you've only lost 4 games, is there really a formula to beat them? Oh, the best thing you can think of is turn them over and outshoot them from beyond the arc, and they have a bad shooting night.
Yeah, I saw a stat that they're 27-0 when they turn it over fewer than 14 times.
Yes,
I think it's right.
That's right.
So 7-4 when they, and one of the 7 is NC State because they had 16, 17 turnovers, whatever it was. So yeah, I agree. They got away with a lot because, NC State, as good of a run as they were, I mean, NC State is several magnitudes worse than UConn. You can get away with a performance like that against an okay team like NC State.
Give him a 16 turnover performance.
Not an historic team.
Is it going to rain?
I don't think so.
Like, doesn't it feel like it's
not
getting
a cloud in the sky?
Well, but it's getting slightly darker.
It is. Yeah. It's creeping up towards 3:04 or whatever. It's 2:16 now.
What do you see, Jimmy?
You're starting to see the moon. You're starting to see the path. It's gone from a sliver to. I don't want to get into a fraction game here, Jake, but it's happening. We're starting to see the countdown of totality move in.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, you could see. You looked up at it. You could start to see the moon, couldn't you?
I mean, it is pretty cool, right? I wish I could, I tried to put my glasses over the phone to be able to take a picture, and it didn't work.
No, I tried that too, and it didn't work at all.
I guess you can fry your phone. Is that right?
Apparently, or maybe that's what they want you to think. I'm a question asker.
Somebody's got to do it.
Ask the questions.
Do you do your own research on a lot of stuff, Derek?
I do my own research.
Okay, well, good for you, right?
Now, can I ask one joking question as well?
Yeah.
Does every branch of Purdue get the same quarter zip with their department labeled underneath it?
A lot of them do, yeah.
Okay.
So like college,
you got marketing and communications on there.
Yeah.
No, that.
Which I was out here at 5 in the morning. It was still 40 degrees or whatever, so it was nice. Now I'm sweating because it's hot. I was on Good Morning America this morning.
Really?
Yeah, they held us GMA
hold on. Were you on that the same way that you were on the Channel 8 News during Black Friday a few years ago?
That was Channel 6. Yeah, live at the Sears. Rest in peace to the Sears in Castleton. But I was there Black Friday. Got a tool set and a sweater.
And you were in the background while they were, and I remember the live shot. It said, "Morons shopping to save 20% that they could actually get any other time of the year," and you were in the background at 12:30.
It just sucks. The internet has really kind of ruined Black Friday. Black Friday used to be like the spirit of Black Friday back in 2011.
Did you wait in line once for several hours with your hand on a mattress?
Yeah, a mattress topper. We had a king mattress topper, and it was $35 at Walmart, marked down from $95, and I was there for 3 hours. So it was worth it.
$20 an hour.
Yeah. You know, you worked with me. That's about so.
That was par for the course for you, right?
At least that's what they thought.
That's back before you were full-time working, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
But the other thing, Derek, that we were talking about today, we kind of keep going back and forth on this, but if you were to look into a year from now, a year from now, you're going to a game, you're in Paducah, Kentucky, and UK is putting on a basketball exhibition. Who is the coach leading them out?
If he's ever going to leave for something, UK would be the top lead for Scott. I don't know if he wants to leave. He's had other over.
Believe me,
nobody. I understand.
Underbelly
I
on
understand.
the Kentucky fan base. You don't want to.
I know, but nobody wants Scott Drew.
Yeah.
Like everybody's like, no, we don't want Scott Drew. Yeah, everybody's like, I say it early. There's no like. Again, I'm not saying experts say that. I don't love Scott Drew.
I think Nate Oates would be insane to leave this situation. You have oodles of cash,
right.
you have all the resources in the world, and if you go to a Final Four once every 8 years, they're thrilled.
But what are they paying him?
I don't actually know what his salary is. I'm not sure. I saw Cal between the salary and NIL budget was 15 mil.
This is from USA Today, posted March of this year. It'll make $5 million in the first year of a 6-year deal that will grow to $7.5 million in the final year of his contract,
which I assume would align
through
with the Kentucky deal, right?
Because he just got an extension. That's what it was. He just got an extension last month.
I don't think Kentucky can. I mean, they can. I don't think they would pay enough to make it worth my. I just really feel like you can settle in at Alabama, Ohio State, or Texas, or jobs like that, and not have the constant pressure and scrutiny that you have in places like UK.
I don't know how contractual language works, but just for the sake of the conversation, if when the season ends, his new deal kicks in, if that's what the language is, the first 2 years of the deal, $18 million. Yeah. So I don't know if that's the Coach Cal situation, if that's school buyout, like get rid of him, or if because with Cal's situation, that's why it worked out so over Kentucky.
Out of there and try something else, and I think it was time for Kentucky to move on. So it worked out. Not that I want things to work out for Kentucky, but
we will take a quick break, and I think Gene Keady is going to join us on just the other side. You're listening to Query and Company from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
It's here, Greenwood. We proudly invite you to your new Academy.
Back at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway for the Total Eclipse event. And tonight it is at 9 o'clock, a little after that, in the desert, Purdue and the University of Connecticut for the national championship in college basketball. And it is a pleasure and an honor to welcome to the program a guy that I think of all people, of all those that we've talked about, that this means the most for Purdue. Coach Gene Keady, the legendary and Hall of Fame coach of the Purdue Boilermakers. Coach, it is your day today to see your Boilermakers in the national championship, and I appreciate you taking just a couple minutes out of your day to join us today. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for saying that.
Well, listen, I know that I speak for, and I didn't go to Purdue, but I know what this means for Purdue. And for so many people, I think that they were so thrilled to see you get a piece of the net from Zach Edey into the Final Four. Have you got a chance to just enjoy it, to soak it in and take in everything that goes with all of the spoils of being in the Final Four?
Every minute of it. Thank you. I know how hard it is to get here, and I appreciate the opportunity to be with them. So thank you for saying that.
Now, I was told this, and I might have misunderstood it, but I was told that earlier one of the first things that you had to do today, and I don't know if it was you or somebody else, but you were going to a hair salon to make sure that you were representing Purdue the right way when it came to hair. Now, am I wrong about that?
No, you're right. They put a P in the back of my head.
So you do have a P shaved into the back of your head, Gene Keady, right?
Yes, I do. Yep.
That
yep,
is
with color.
absolutely, that is beautiful.
With color. Thank you.
So,
I didn't expect it, but they did it. So thank you for bringing that up.
So if they win, then what do you do?
Well, I'm waiting here now to get ready to go to the game. So I'm with friends and just enjoying the experience and enjoying the opportunity.
Coach, listen, I know you're busy, and I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I wanted to give you this opportunity. You know, Matt Painter, it is so special for any coach, I think, to be able to hand over the keys to somebody who lived in the house. And just for you personally, to see the way that Matt Painter has carried on this program and gotten it to this point, both from a basketball standpoint and a character standpoint. What does it mean to you?
Oh gosh, it means everything. It's like almost like your son's with you. So I appreciate it very much. I'm enjoying it very much, and I appreciate you bringing it up.
So, Coach, in terms of tonight, the one Gene Keady key to the game would be what?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know. I think rebounding, probably. I don't know for sure.
Well, Connecticut's got a lot of size.
I don't have an answer for that. If I knew, I'd probably go tell Matt, but he'll figure it out.
Well, Coach, I'll tell you what. You have been obviously the face of that program and that franchise, if you will, and that university. And for you to be able to soak all of this in and enjoy it, and enjoy you look good with the P in the back of the head, I'm sure. And I know you've got a lot going on. It was simply important for me to be able to represent Purdue fans and the people of Central Indiana to simply say to you, enjoy tonight. Good luck to the Boilers. Boiler up. And I know that so many people are happy for you and proud of what you meant for that university.
Thank you. Well, I want to tell you, I've always been a crazy sports fan. ESPN was one of the reasons that I've enjoyed watching everybody play, and I enjoy the fact that ESPN has been so big in the sports world.
Well, we appreciate it, Coach, and certainly enjoy it tonight. And then, I don't know, maybe an earring or something if they were to win it, but to go along with the shaved head. Enjoy it tonight, all right, Gene Keady?
Thank you very much for having me on, and I appreciate you being loyal.
All right, boiler up to Gene Keady as Purdue plays tonight for the national championship. And I'm telling you, there you go. He's got the P shaved into the back of his head. I absolutely love it. Comb over gives way now to the Purdue logo as the Boilers play tonight for the national championship game. If you are just joining us, we're at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway because the Eclipse event is now officially underway. As a matter of fact, that window began about 40 minutes ago. The totality, if you will, for the Eclipse is going to be just over 30 minutes from right now. And there are some 50 to 60,000 people who have gathered here between the Pagoda Plaza. Some of them have now worked their way onto the main straightaway. They had exhibitions of race cars going around here at the facility itself. And then obviously the Purdue band. This is in coordination with Purdue University. NASA has been here handing out information for kids and using the video boards for educational purposes about everything that's taking place at the Speedway today. And I think the fact that we are simply so lucky, with this event, and the passive totality we have known for some 6 years of this event that was going to be taking place at IMS. But people have turned out, and they have turned out in droves, like my friend Judy, who drove all the way up from Tennessee, I'm sure, to see the Eclipse here. So fans and people have come out from all walks. We'll continue talking about that. We will get you set for handing it off to John when we do so under darkness, and we'll make sure that Jimmy's wearing his glasses because he wandered off, and I got to make sure he's not burning his retinas. We'll do all of it when we come back to IMS. You're listening to Corey & Company, 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Heat and cool with nearly geothermal efficiency in places you can't fit ductwork with Mitsubishi electric ductless mini splits.
Just go to AbsoluteComfort.org. That's AbsoluteComfort.org.
Business. It's all the things that keep this world turning. And behind every one of these companies is a partner helping to keep it all moving. It's why the local flower shop and your favorite pizza joint, the startup and the stadium, hospitals and hotels, banks and restaurants nationwide all choose the advanced network, cybersecurity solutions, and round-the-clock trusted partnership from Comcast Business, the company that powers more businesses than anyone else. Comcast Business, powering possibilities.
See why Comcast Business powers more small businesses than anyone else. Get started with fast speeds and advanced security for $49 a month for 12 months with a 2-year contract when you add one unlimited mobile line. Plus, ask how to get up to an $800 prepaid card with a qualifying gig bundle. Don't wait. Call to switch today. Ends 5/6/24. Restrictions apply. New customers.
for the final time during the NCAA tournament in March Madness, we have plays of the day themed as such. Both involve tonight's national championship game. I saw the number and I capitalized. Scoop the 7 on the Purdue Boilermakers. They are 7-point dogs now, where I've seen it multiple sports books. I think this is a really close game. I know we're going to do predictions here in a little bit, but ultimately I think Purdue covers that 7. And lastly, if this doesn't hit, Purdue is not going to walk out of Phoenix national champions, and that's Zach Edey over 24.5 total points. So again, Purdue scooped the 7. They're 7-point dogs. And then the heartbeat of the Boilermakers himself, Zach Edey, over 24.5 total points tonight against UConn. Those are your plays of the day.
Now, here is my – Jimmy, you ready for my lock of the day?
Yes, give it to me. I love a good lock.
This is my lock of the day. I don't even know if you can go somewhere right now and wager on this, but lock of the day for me is the fact that it's going to get darker here in about 30 minutes. Lock of the day.
That's the ultimate lock. That is your mortgage type lock of the day, to be sure.
Now, I looked up. I had the glasses on. And there's an interesting thing that happens with the power of suggestion. Because if you look up, it feels like you can see the moon moving. Now, I don't think you can, right? I don't think you can. But it feels that way.
Well, you would see – I agree with you as a power of suggestion, but you would see it start to cover the sun more and more. So in a way, you are seeing it move, are you not? Or not literally, but you're seeing – right. You're seeing the – yeah, go ahead. No, you're right.
Yeah, but like it feels like
you're just seeing the rotation.
It feels like you're like, there it goes. Look.
Right.
Cool. And it's a lot of fun to be out here. You know, Jimmy, we need to get back to what we talked about off the top of the show, and that is last night the Pacers with a very strong performance because this Eclipse is going to push a little bit of heat out of the atmosphere here in Central Indiana. Pacers did exactly that to the Miami Heat last night. But, Jimmy, it wasn't easy because they had themselves a double-digit, upwards of 15-point lead for the better part of the second half. But Miami was able to make a run, close things, keep it then interesting, and Indiana had to kind of hold on towards the end. Tyler Hero with a couple of heroic shots, pardon the pun, late in that game. But I thought for the Pacers, they did what they needed to do, Jimmy. Now the thing that becomes the challenge for them is this, and that is backing it up and solidifying that win and making it count by winning the games they're supposed to win. And by that I mean with the likes of Atlanta and Toronto still on the schedule.
Yeah, I mean, you look at potential opportunities for the Pacers right now, and they control everything. I know we hate the cliche, but sometimes cliches are just true. They fully control their own destiny now to lock up the 6th spot, to be in the playoffs, not have to hassle with the rigors of the play-in tournament, and secure themselves a 7-game series in the first round. They have to go through Toronto on the road. They have to go through Cleveland on the road. And then a week from yesterday, Sunday at 1 o'clock, they're going to take on Atlanta at home to close out the regular season. And you talked about it, Jake. Like, yes, there have been instances for the Pacers all year where they've played down to competition and they've stumbled, and you've been like, well, it's only February or January. Like, it's fine. There's plenty of games left. We're past that point now. We are at the point where you are effectively not only having an audition to make the playoffs, you are having an audition to both your fan base and your coaching staff of this is the team that we're going to be in 3 weeks, in 4 weeks, in a playoff series. Like that's where you want to be. So if you're not focused and you're not locked in for these 3, you're going to have a quick exit anyway in the playoffs if that's the type of mentality you're carrying. Doesn't matter if you're in the play-in or the playoffs for that matter. They have to close out and, as you mentioned, take care of business against those types. Because, Jake, if they don't, like how does this end? And I haven't checked the bottom half of the standings, but if you stumble, you're just inviting a potential matchup with the Bulls or with somebody that probably has better roster construction than you do, and you're going to be in jeopardy of getting bounced before the playoffs even start.
Yeah, I think that, listen, last night it seemed as though the Pacers, they're aware now of the task at hand. I'm not sitting here carrying their water saying this team's focused and all is well. But what you do have, and what I thought I saw last night was, a couple of veterans that realized the moment and made sure that they were taking care of business. And let's begin, Jimmy, with T.J. McConnell, who last night was outstanding, had 14 early as soon as he comes off the bench, but he just provided an energy to them. But at the same time, I think kind of kept Miami at bay with, the typical T.J. McConnell plays, right? I mean, the stealing of an inbound pass or some sort of a defensive play, and he hit really big shots for them. And he did so at a time when that kind of took the pressure off Halliburton, because I thought Tyrese Halliburton, who was able to hit his shots, which was great, but you didn't want Halliburton to then have to be too reliant on that and start forcing things. And I think that opening things up offensively in other areas did allow for them to kind of back off of that pressure of Halliburton, if that makes sense.
Well, and it's why T.J. McConnell should be in consideration for Sixth Man of the Year honors, because so often general thought around the NBA is when a team that has high-level stars like the Pacers do, might not be Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, but Tyrese Halliburton, Pascal Siakam, Miles Turner, that's a formidable trio. There's no arguing that. When you have to go to your second unit, what happens? And oftentimes leads shrink. Not with the Pacers. They almost feel like, and this wouldn't be over the course of an 82-game season. Of course, there's some level of joking here, but their second unit, led by T.J. McConnell, oftentimes extends leads for them or gets them back into ball games or keep things within the realm of striking distance when you bring starters back out there. I mean, he's single-handedly at times, whether it's, I know you love this play, Jake, driving baseline by T.J. McConnell, and then he turns up, all of a sudden he's in the middle of the paint, wide open for a little floater, or he's making a proper cut at high time to get a layup at the rim or to make an extra pass. He has been so just – he has been as critical a piece on this roster all season, but especially for the last 2-3 weeks, as any other member of a Pacers uniform. 22 points last night is part of the reason they built the lead that they did, and is a team high 22, along with Miles Turner. So, yeah, he's invaluable. I think it's a little disrespectful that he's not in the conversation for Sixth Man of the Year. And ultimately, again, regardless of their playoff positioning, which I do think they're going to take care of business and hold down the 6th seed, Jake, if you were to look, and I know there's a lot of Pacers players that you like, you've highlighted Ed Jackson, might not be one as important non-Tyrese Halliburton division, non-Pascal Siakam division, Jake, as T.J. McConnell.
By the way, is this your first total eclipse, Jimmy?
Yes.
I think this is the first total eclipse for anybody in Indianapolis, right? That unless you've gone elsewhere for one, right?
Right. Do you think there's like a traveling caravan of people that do that? Like they just
yeah. I saw a guy. I kid you not. I saw a guy when we got here. Okay, I saw a guy wearing a T-shirt that said "Total Eclipse," like Carbondale, Illinois, such and such, 2017. Actually, it was Kentucky, somewhere in Kentucky. And I'm like, so then I wondered, if you're wearing the Eclipse T-shirt today, is that the equivalent of the dork that wore the band concert to the concert itself, like the band shirt to the concert? Is it the same thing?
Do you think they trade pins? Do you think there's different pins for each total eclipse? Or do you just have a little collection that you've got going on?
The NASA folks were handing stuff out earlier, right? That was cool. I mean, that was very cool.
They were. Yeah, that was really neat.
But it's power of suggestion, because I'm starting to think to myself, and this is where I'm just different, right? But we're 22 minutes away now, and I'm thinking to myself, it better start getting dark fast. Like, what if they were off on this? Is that possible?
Yeah, I feel like having not talked here, but I've not talked to any NASA personnel. I feel like it would be, Jake, like the Weather Channel is here. The chances of them being wrong about anything in terms of totality, I feel like are very, very small.
No, like everyone is here and everyone's losing their mind. Like, for example, I was just told that one of the networks that is not that has Lester Holt just showed a shot of Lester Holt at IMS to mention that he's here doing his show tonight. And that's not the network that he's doing it on, which seems counterproductive, right? Everybody's losing their mind. But it's cool.
Yes.
And you know what? Like, look, it feels good out here.
I want to ask you this because, again, you've been around this place more than anybody I personally know. We talked about this to start the show, and be honest with me, because I've only covered a couple of what I'm about to reference. In terms of what is the body count around Pagoda Plaza, this feels like Carb Day, does it not?
No, I think that's a fair statement. Yeah, I think that is a very fair statement. I can't see now, because we're in the infield, how many people are out in the stands itself, but I think it's very on par. Now, the biggest carb day I've ever seen was the 100th running year. The 2016 carb day was unbelievable, but that was the anomaly. So in terms of just a typical carb day crowd, yes, no question, it's bigger. And in terms of like the Grand Prix, it's bigger. And I thought Will Power touched on it well, where he said, it's an opportunity today, hopefully, to introduce some people to the sport of racing, because they're taking advantage by having cars out on the racetrack earlier, in hopes that people will see it and go, hey, so that's why this is such a cool venue. Because one thing you got to say, Jimmy, if you come inside this venue, it's the first time that you really get an idea, speaking of totality of the size, right, of the actual track. I don't think people realize how big it is until they come in here, and then suddenly it makes sense to them.
And you could see the eyeballs, the footsteps start to run towards the track as they were doing, those test laps, those test runs through it. I mean, I know that, maybe there's been tongue-in-cheek comments. I like Will Power's comments. I realize the chances or the risk of getting damage or something like that today, probably not worth it. But, yeah, it would have been really cool to see, like, 3 or 4 cars on a simultaneous run out on the track. But even with just one at a time, yeah, everybody was gathered there just like it would be on carb day. And, I mean, it's a precursor, Jake. I feel like again, this does not happen every year, clearly, but it is a precursor to just the atmosphere and the vibes that we are just a couple weeks away from happening. Like, once the NFL draft starts, and I know for IMS folk, the day after the race is when the countdown starts. But once the draft finishes here in a couple weeks, like, this is it. These are the type of vibes and energy you want from the greatest spectacle in racing coming up at the end of next month.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And, you obviously have people from, around really at the very least around the Midwest. But like right now, I mean, I'm looking at, there's people from Iowa walking past, Kentucky, Illinois, at least based on their shirts. So you have people from all over that are here because this is kind of the civic stage, but you're hoping that they obviously come here and become intrigued as to why, this place is special and decide to come back and give it a test and give it a try. And we'll see what happens in terms of that. Now, question is, Jimmy, when people come back for the Indianapolis 500-mile race, are they coming back, number one, to the state of the national champions, and number two, will they be seeing Indiana Fever player Caitlin Clark driving the pace car for either the Grand Prix or the 500?
I feel like going into tonight and looking out at the month of May for who might end up being the pace car driver, both of those are equally possible. Jake, I mentioned this in the plays of the day. I think that this is going to be a very close game. I think it's going to be right down to the wire. Purdue being 7-point dogs, and that's where the thing has moved now. I know the lines don't really matter to like what's going to happen on the floor, but in terms of that's what the public and the odds makers are pushing things towards, is that, okay, Purdue 7-point underdogs tonight. I don't think that happens. I think this is a game that comes down to the last 1 or 2 possessions, but I ultimately think that the Boilermakers will join 02 Indiana, 2010 Butler, and 2011 Butler as teams that have gone to the national title game and already came to an end. I think that UConn has too many weapons. They can beat you in more ways than Purdue can. And while I think you're going to get a strong performance, a bounce-back performance from Braden Smith, Jake, I think ultimately UConn are national champions. What about you? Do you think the Boilermakers will be cutting down the nets for the first time in program history?
Here's the thing. Purdue has exercised the demons. Purdue has answered the question about whether or not they can get this done and whether or not the double-digit seed losses are, the norm. Purdue has come to the bell. They've met the challenge, right? And I would like to think that what we see now is the fact that Purdue has silenced those critics. But there are those, certainly, that without a national title are going to still say that they fell short because they were a team that was ranked number 1 for the vast majority of the season. Connecticut is, I wouldn't say historically good, but they are certainly the team this year and for the last 2 years that has been the program that has been the most dominant in college basketball in the manner and the fashion by which they're winning games. And with that, you feel like that if Purdue is not to win, that not unlike 0-2 Indiana, not unlike probably either of those Butler teams, but certainly the second one where they just went ice cold in that game against Connecticut.
God, I hated that game so much.
Probably, for that matter, Indiana State, the one thing that you look at is that you say, okay, they were in those games, those teams were not expected to win. And so they got kind of a pass, if you will, historically in retrospect. Purdue may be in that category with Connecticut. But, Jimmy, when you look at everything lining up, you look at the fact that, I mean, honestly, just the uniqueness of today in general, all of the coincidences and the tie-ins with the moon and the eclipse and the epicenter of the world being here focused on Indiana and everything that comes into play, then with all of that, non-basketball related, I say Purdue wins. But I think it's really going to come down to their supporting cast, because I do think that the centers are awash, and I will admit to the fact that I think from a speed and playing with speed under control standpoint, Connecticut is superior to Purdue in their 2 through 7 players. And that, to me, is going to be the storyline. They are going to need huge performances from Fletcher Lawyer, probably Trey Kaufman-Wren, and maybe even Mason Gillis along with that. Braden Smith certainly cannot play like he did on Saturday night, but I don't think he will. That's not a concern to me. But I don't think that either one of those teams is going to get the dominating center play that carries them, just because I think those two players are very good and kind of cancel one another out. So you need – but an average night from Connecticut's supporting cast and an average night from Purdue's supporting cast is advantage Connecticut. So you need a superlative night and a perfect night from the supporting cast from Purdue.
Yeah, and they have to take care of the basketball. Like, I've stressed that 2 or 3 times on the show today. If they have another night where they turn over the ball 16 times, UConn will bury them. Like, NC State had windows of opportunities. They had a really bad Purdue night in a lot of areas outside of shoot. And their three-point being as abysmal as it was, that really helped carry the day for Purdue to take a breath and really lock back in and overcome those turnovers. But to your point about the depth, this is a starting 5 for UConn where I believe every player averages double-figure scoring. Like, they can beat you in so many ways in every metric that matters from efficiency. They're better offensively, they're better defensively than just about anybody in the country. That said, Purdue is tops in a lot of those same categories, which, again, is why I think it's a close game. But I think barring Edey and Smith, or maybe Edey and Lawyer combining for like 60, they're going to need, as Derek said earlier, Derek Schultz on the show a couple segments ago, they're going to have to play perfect basketball, I think, to beat UConn.
I don't disagree, but I'm telling you, we'll make our predictions at the end of the game, or at the end of the show here, right, heading into the game. We'll make our predictions. By the way, it's starting to get now, I think they might have been right, Jim. Like, it is starting to get a little bit dusky, right?
Are you near the thematic music? Because it adds an extra element to combination of Star Wars, Star Trek, and I would assume other sci-fi films that they have going on in the
Well, you're going to like the fact that they're going to play all kinds of Star Wars music, right?
I'm all here for it. We were walking in today, and we had the Star Wars theme out of the gate. It felt like I was in Disney World. It was great. It was awesome.
So this will go, just so everybody knows, we are about to enter into, and when we hand it over to John here in about 10 minutes, we'll give an update from out here, but we are about to enter into the area of the totality of this eclipse. That begins in just under 10 minutes from now, and we will have just under 4 minutes of complete darkness here in central Indiana, which is very surreal. It is very cool, and cool is kind of a word as well, because it is supposed to drop, as Angela Buckman had told us earlier, some 10 to 12 degrees here in the next 5 or 10 minutes. So those are things that we will look out for. But it is cool. And then that eclipse, then it will start moving to the other side, and it will be into the 4 o'clock hour before we are back to our normally scheduled amount of sunlight. That's where things stand right now on this trip. Truthfully, what is kind of a historic day in central Indiana for this event, because the last time that we had an event of this level in terms of total darkness and totality was the year that Purdue University, of course, opened. And then, of course, when it comes to the moon, the first man to walk on it, 1969, that was none other than Neil Armstrong of Purdue, and Purdue played in the national championship game. And now, as I had mentioned, Purdue on a day of totality is in the Valley of the Sun on this eclipse day. And, Jimmy, that leads us to this. Give me your prediction tonight in the final 25 seconds on what happens in Glendale, Arizona.
I think it's a great game. Comes down to the wire, but UConn ultimately goes back 77-71 Huskies.
Okay, we will be talking about it at noon tomorrow. Rest assured, we will watch the Eclipse and hand it over to John here in a minute. And tomorrow when we join you at noon, we will be celebrating Purdue's 88-85 victory over the Connecticut Huskies for the first national championship in school history. You folks have a good one. We'll talk to you along with J&B here in just a minute. Enjoy the Eclipse as well. Thanks for listening to Query & Company on The Fan.
93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Your home for Indy sports. Now with even more ways to listen.
Listen on air.
Online at 1075thefan.com.
And